Okay. Okay. I'd like to call the November...
Sit down.
Can I have your attention? I'd like to call the meeting to order of November 20th, 2024 of the Board of Selectmen at 6:30. Mr. Pinio, do we have a need for non-public?
We do not, Madam Chairperson.
Breaks our heart. Okay, first item on the agenda, the minutes of October 24th, 2024. Does anybody have any corrections, changes? Hearing none, can I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Okay, Brad made a motion. Do I have a second? Brian is the second. Paul's the second. Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. All right. Next is the October 28th, 2024 budget minutes. Does anybody have any changes or corrections?
None here.
Hearing none. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve the October 28, 2024 budget minutes.
Do I? Paul? Okay. Brian made the motion. Paul, second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. October 30th minutes. Anybody have any corrections, changes? Hearing none. Can I have a motion?
Move to approve. You got it? Move to approve the October 30th, 2024 budget minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. I have a motion by Brian, second by Dave. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the November 6th minutes, and I have a change on page 8. It is just, Mrs. Murray, just above F, it says the checklist will not be added to the November 20th Board of Selectmen's minutes. And that's all I have.
I have a correction on page 7 at the top. It says, it's the very first line, it says, Mr. Deshaies' treated water is clean. That's not what I said at all. I actually have a lengthy discussion there, and I'm wondering if Brenda can go back and look at it and put in the correct wording. To paraphrase it, I asked him, I said, I know that you're kind of talking in jest about how clean our wastewater comes out, but we should make sure that we don't let people think it's clean enough to drink or to swim in or to fish in or anything like that, because the water does have all the viruses that come through our sewage system make it into that water.
Brian, would you be willing to write a paragraph on what you want? I mean, she goes through, she doesn't go word for word.
Okay.
She condenses it. I would then table these minutes,
Okay.
let you write what you want there, and then we would insert that.
Move to table so that Mr. Deshaies can write appropriate language for the November 6 minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Paul and a second by Brian to table these minutes. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
All righty. We're going to start with some public hearings. The first one is a temporary event. I will read it. I'm going to open up the public hearing. The Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, November 20th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. to consider a temporary event permit application for the Wolfeboro Economic Development Committee's Special Events Subcommittee to host Last Night Wolfeboro on December 31st, 2024 from 10 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. at the Great Hall Town Hall, Congregational Church, Wolfeboro, Railroad Station, Cape Park, Wolfeboro Public Library, Pop Whalen Ice and Art Center, and Estherbrook Hall, Brewster Academy, permit number 2024-61. And Brenda Jarrett should be on. Okay, Brenda? We can't hear. Can we hear her?
We go to the next and then go back.
That's okay. I can vaguely hear her. We can't really hear you. He's trying to fix the equipment.
Very well.
Sounding a little bit.
Sounded louder.
That sounded.
Hello? Can you hear me now?
There we go. We got you. Yep.
Okay. Can you all hear me now?
Yes.
Excellent. Last Night Wolfeboro is underway. All the plans are being made and all of the events are being populated on our Facebook page, Last Night Wolfeboro. We have a small and mighty team volunteering and getting everything done. The main thing for the public to know is zero tax dollars are being used to fund our events this year. We're raising all of the money from our generous sponsors, and as you can see, we have this side. We have our major sponsors, our hunters, as well as Piscataqua Landscaping and Tree Service and Black's Paper Store. And they're our largest funders. We also have many, many other businesses in town, as well as Rooster, that are also helping fund all of our events this year. When you go to our Last Night Wolfeboro Facebook page, you will see all of the events. We'll be sharing them on other Wolfeboro pages as well in the coming weeks. We'll have events, as you could hear, as Mrs. Murray read our permit application. We'll have events all throughout town, starting at 10 in the morning and going through the fireworks at 6 o'clock at night. New this year, at 1:30, we have Jason Tardy, a world-class juggler. He'll be at Great Hall performing. And we're also having, weather permitting, we're having sweet treats by Sweetwater Kitchen, pending her permit, and that'll be right before the fireworks down at the Town Docks area, so you can enjoy some s'mores and hot chocolate, and that's for purchase. We also have bingo and prizes, the Lions Club helping us out with that. We have free ice skating for you at Pop Whalen Ice and Art Center with skates available for rent. And during the games, which start at 10, games and activities from 10 till 12:30, we'll have the Girl Scout troop providing some snacks for sale as well. And we welcome all families and friends to participate. I shouldn't leave out Wildlife Encounters, our most popular show. That's happening about 3:30 at Great Hall, and that is capacity limited, so make sure you get there to grab your seat for that program, and that's sponsored by the Children's Center. We have 2 concerts at the Congregational Church. At 1 o'clock is Peter Heimlich and the Unusual Suspects, and then at 4 o'clock, the ever-popular Carolyn Ramsey Band, which brings a big crowd as well. And the Congregational Church is providing a church supper for a very nominal fee for individuals, as well as a family fee as well, and that'll be downstairs in their kitchen and fellowship hall area, and that will be from 4 until 6. So much going on, so much to talk about, so much to plan. Stay in touch with our Facebook page as we update things and get new sponsors, etc. We'll be putting everything out there. And we thank the Board of Selectmen, we thank the Economic Development Committee, Town Manager, Parks and Recreation, Fire and Police Departments for helping us out as well. Phew, I'm out of breath. I have work to do.
All right, is there
Thank
anybody
you.
in the audience who would like to speak to this temporary event permit? Hearing and seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Board members, any questions or concerns?
The only one I have is, does Chief Zodi still have any concerns, or has everything been addressed?
Hi, Tom Zodi, Fire Chief. I was able to track down the information I was looking for. I'd since signed the permit, but it may have not have been in time for it to show up in your packet.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or concerns from board members? Hearing none, I need a motion.
Move to approve a temporary event permit application for the Wolfeboro Economic Development Committee Special Event Subcommittee to host Last Night Wolfeboro on December 31st, 2024 from 10 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. at the Great Hall, Town Hall, First Congregational Church, Wolfeboro Railroad Station, Cape Park, Wolfeboro Public Library, Pop Whalen Ice and Art Center, and the Estabrook Hall Brewster Academy. Permit number 2024-61.
Okay, I have a motion by Brian, a second by Paul. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. All righty. We'll move on to the next one. Next one, we're holding a public hearing on unanticipated funds. The Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, November 20th, 2024 at approximately 6:30 p.m. in the Great Hall of the Wolfeboro Town Hall for the acceptance of unanticipated funds for an amount awarded that is less than $10,000 in accordance with RSA 31:95-B relative to the donation of ice skates valued at $1,314.36 that was purchased by the Friends of Kingswood Hockey for the Pop Whalen Ice and Art Center. Is there anybody who'd like to speak to this?
Good evening, Jessica Williams from Friends of Kingswood Hockey. So a little bit about the skates. First of all, we're just so grateful that we had so many generous people in our community that kind of just stood up and took action very quickly. And if anyone doesn't know the history of this, our Crescent Lake School and some other schools were going to move their winter ice skating programs outside of town. And we didn't really like that because we have a beautiful new facility and we thought we should stay in town. So luckily we had a meeting with Christine and the new Brian over here, Brian Paul. And we have so many schools now that are going to be bringing their skating programs back to the Pop. So I think we should all be proud of that. Our donation, we actually went ahead and, I don't know why I'm nervous. But anyway, I want to be quick and I want to get out of here. So we actually got a wholesale account with K2, and there were some issues with the skates that they were difficult to tie. So anyone that's tied skates before, it's kind of tedious and laborious, and it was hard for the volunteers. So we went ahead and got skates with a very easy lacing system and a latch system. So it's going to be a lot easier for the children and the chaperones. So we have 32 pairs of skates that we were able to donate, and they should be delivered next week.
Thank you. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak to this public hearing? Seeing and hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Board members, I would like to thank the Friends of Kingswood Hockey for stepping forward and making this happen for our children in the Governor Wentworth Regional School District. Anybody else? Comments? Hearing none, can I have a motion?
Move to accept a donation of ice skates valued at $1,314.36 that was purchased by the Friends of Kingswood Hockey for the Pop Whalen Ice and Arts Center.
I have a motion by Brian, a second by Paul. All those in favor? Aye. Paul, can you put your microphone down, because it's hard for the minute taker to hear what you're saying.
Sorry.
Okay, I'm going to open up the next public hearing. It's a building permit for a Class 6 road. The Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, November 20th, 2024 at approximately 6:30 p.m. in the Wolfeboro Town Hall, Grade Hall, 84 South Main Street, Wolfeboro, New Hampshire, to consider the application received by the Robbins Family Revocable Trust dated June 6, 2024 for a building permit on a Class 6 portion of North Wakefield Road, specifically tax map 104, lot 3. The abutter notices were sent out by certified mail on November 13th. Mr. Pinio, are you going to speak to it, or are we going to go right to the...
I can speak to it very briefly. So this project did go in front of the planning board on November 14th. The planning board recommended this coming in front of the Board of Selectmen, as the Board of Selectmen are the ones who have to sign off on any building permits on Class 6 roads. The property owners have been made aware and have received the agreement of release for building on a Class 6 road. They're very well aware of that and the Class 6 road policy. This does not impact our electric department at all. The only impacts really at this point would be to fire rescue services and the ambulance services. The highway department would not do this particular area as it's a Class 6 road. So that's the biggest concern, is fire rescue services in the area. Other than that, there's no real issues that we have identified as staff.
Board members, I did drive out there, and because you have to kind of go all around to go in, and I wanted to see the condition of the road, the number of other houses. It's not out in the wilderness. There are many other houses on the road. And I went through the Board of Selectmen's Class 6 road policy, and I would like, if we grant this, to add 3 conditions which are on the second page of our policy. The first one is cutting and clearing shall be limited to the existing travelway. The Board of Selectmen may approve cutting outside the travelway, but still within the town right, if reasonable, but I would just do the first part of that. The most important one to me is the drainage. All drainage work shall direct water in the existing natural pattern and existing water courses. Drainage shall not be directed into any new water source onto abutting properties. And that one is particularly an issue that we need to address, and we've had issues in the downtown when a lot is being developed, we don't address the drainage, and it must stay on somebody's property. And the other one would be stone walls. Any damage to stone walls located within the town right-of-way during the course of the construction shall be repaired and restored. And those are part of our policies, and I think if it's the lot I looked at, there is a stone wall,
So I have a couple of questions. Brad, you want to go first?
No, I was just going to say, we have the gentleman here that has a property there, if you wanted to have him come up and speak at all to it or anything. Or,
would you like to come up and speak?
Well, Mr. Harriman is at the planning board. I passed pictures around through here. That's good that you went out there. No, as far as the stone wall, I agree. In Wakefield, I always have supported not abusing the stone walls. Chuck Robbins from Wakefield.
Thank you.
And on the drainage, with Norway Plains Survey, we went out there and we went down 7 feet as far as we went. The sand and the high water mark was at about 70 inches. So drainage, you should not have a drainage problem towards the road at all. And what was your third concern? Was
It's stone walls. It was just clear cutting
oh, in the
on the road away.
And there are no trees in the right-of-way, but I agree with you, any driveway cut should blend in with the property as it exists now.
Yeah, it was a spot I looked at. I'd just like to put that in. You're not going to have any problems with them, but with the issues with drainage today,
Well, in Wakefield, we have a 50-foot buffer where you're not allowed to even cut the first 50 feet of trees, unless you get caught, I guess. But.
Looks like a nice lot. I usually don't believe that we should extend building permits onto a Class 6 road, but there's so many people out there, have no
50
issue.
years ago, I had a friend out there, and there was nobody out there but one person. So.
I'll second your motion.
There wasn't a
Well,
motion.
I thought Brian had a question.
Yeah, it wasn't a motion yet. So I have a couple of questions. One, do we ever grade that road?
No.
No.
I was told that they're going out next week to grade it, or in
We
the next...
grade up to the bridge, which the bridge is the transition point to the Class 6 road.
Is this one past the bridge?
That's about a half mile. My property is right on the Brookfield line. Okay. That's where the Wolfeboro line starts, and where you're asking about is probably a half mile ahead.
Okay, so we don't grade down that far?
No, that might even be 3/4. You're talking the wooden bridge? That's probably 3/4 of a mile from the Brookfield Wolfeboro line.
So once we hit the Brookfield, which is a Class 6 road, Wolfeboro is also Class 6 road once you leave
Correct.
Brookfield.
Yep.
So, okay, I'm getting something different from Steve.
Correct. And do we plow that road?
I need, if he could come up, if that's not a Class 6 road, there's no need that we have this application.
So I got this late yesterday, and I was trying to figure out with the tax map and where it was. If this is coming in from the other side, Brookfield is a Class 6 road.
Correct.
As soon as you come back into Wolfeboro, that is a Class 5 road. And that is a 5 road all the way to basically Amanda Bevards. So if his lot is between Brookfield and the bridge where Amanda lives, that's a Class 5 road.
So there's no point for us to even have this.
That's what I was saying.
And we do maintain that. We grade it and we plow it.
Okay, well, that's important for us to know that it's not, so we just went through this. You're okay.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
It's been a pleasure.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's as soon as you cross over that side. That's so.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There's nothing we can
He
do.
answered everything.
You can just go down and get a building permit.
So,
Today.
You want me to sit down?
yeah, you're all set.
You're all
Good.
set. You're all set.
Madam Chairman.
Yes.
So, question to Brad. So the planning board sent it this way. They assumed it was a Class 6 road?
That's what we understood, that it was Class 6 road.
Okay.
I mean, that's the application that somebody had him fill out.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah. Nice meeting you.
Yeah, that was going to be a question, but I
Okay.
didn't want to get into it. That what was shown on the tax map and what you're doing is on the other side of the street, isn't it?
109, it wasn't 109, yeah.
I was confused as to where your lot was. It's on the other side of the, it's not 109, it's 104. Or is it back, or did I have it backwards?
It's a tax map.
I got it, okay. Little administrative cleanup required on our end. Thank you for doing this, and thanks for your patience. Good luck.
Oh, you're all set. You can go
Ready to
home.
go.
Even though, you may want to stay and see what we do, but
Yeah, you may
feel
May
free to
want
go
watch
home.
the rest of this, it's going to be fun.
All right.
Okey schmokey. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
You keep, no, you keep.
Next item on the agenda is the bulk vote. Does any board member have any concerns? I would like to point out that we got our equalized primary ratio study, and we are at 52% of, what was that? Of assessed value. Our indicated ratio is 52%, and our weighted mean is 52%. And it said that The price-related differential is 1.09, which indicates a bias in assessment toward the higher valued property. And at the end, it says, per RSA 75:8-A, the next requires townwide reassessment will be next year, 2005. So this is from the assessor that we are required to do that.
But did we give the abutters, any abutters chances?
Well, the butters, there's nothing to speak to.
You're good to go.
You're good to go, and if somebody's there, they can go.
Madam Chairman?
Yep.
Just for the benefit of the public, this ratio analysis that is conducted, there's a threshold, and I forget what the threshold was. Was it 80% that that triggered a note? Maybe Mr. Tuffer, was it 80%? 90%.
Yeah,
So we're within a couple hundred yards and a pitching wedge away from that. So the importance here is it's almost not a conversation item about needing to conduct a townwide reassessment.
Well,
It's beyond
and also
discussion.
we're required every 5 years, and we're hit the 5 years.
So,
We've hit it in a number of ways.
This reminds us all when we start talking about how we position this in warrants or other things. It's beyond the issue. Okay, thank you.
Anything else in the bulk vote somebody wants to talk about? Hearing none, can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the bulk vote items A through C.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Brad and a second by Dave. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All righty, we have no board appointments. We have new business 1, adaptive skate day at Pop Whalen Ice Arena, Kingswood Regional High School event. And I think the person's supposed to be on, okay, good. Can you just state your name?
The goal for our program is to get the kids out and get them moving in the community so that when they leave our program, they're able to access the community and facilities and local leisure activities on their own or locally dependent on dog services. So I am hoping that all of you got an email a month ago, but I emailed inquiring about doing an adaptive skate day at Pop Whalen. We've done an adaptive skate day using neurotypical hockey players and our students and specialists would pair together to create an amazing and incredible experience of foster inclusion and social interaction. And the opportunity is really, it helps them practice empathy, understanding, and inclusivity for those neurotypical students, but for our neurodiverse students, it provides them a chance to engage in a peer activity that does social interaction with them and makes them feel connected with their peers rather than excluded. So I've done this in a school district in the past, and we've used a different facility, and then we tried to do it last year, and it didn't quite work out just because of the travel. It was about an hour away, and that facility has let us use it for free. In fact, that we're a public school and program. So I'm inquiring about using Pop Whalen on February 14th from 9:30 to 12:30. I've got to speak with Bo at Select. He actually, I've worked with him in the past. He's been able to see what a wonderful program is. He let me know that in order for us to get any sort of compensation for the cost, I would have to come and speak to you guys about approval. So the fee is $30 an hour, and it ends up being about $700 for us to use the facility in the morning. It's not quite as expensive for budget, so I was hoping that you all would look into use that facility so that our students see their own community rather than somebody else's facilities, and local venues rather than traveling to a different city or community for us to use something similar.
Okay, thank you. Board members, any questions?
So I talked to some people in the school universe and told them I was kind of shocked that the school doesn't support this event. And they said, no, they don't. So I looked at it, and I love the way that the high school hockey players, boys and girls team, are involved with the students. I would almost challenge the high school boys and girls team to do a little bit of fundraiser to help this out, and I'll pick up 50% of it myself if they raise the other 50%.
Other board members, what would you like to do? I have no problem waiving the full amount. My feeling is that these are special ed kids. We have them working with the high school students. It supports community service for the high school kids doing it. And I think that hopefully another year that the school district can put enough money in the budget for it. And we can ask them to do that, but I would love to have them at Pop Whalen. We just spent a whole lot of money renovating that facility. It's a gorgeous facility, and we should make it available to everybody. So that's where I am.
Well, for discussion, I'll second your motion.
Okay, you support what I said. Brad?
Or I'll
I
make it.
agree.
Doesn't matter.
I think it's a good program. It's going to bring those kids out into the arena there and stuff. It's good PR for the Pop Whalen ice arena up there. And if Brian's Challenge does pay out there and they want to raise some money and stuff, they could make a donation toward that on the side too, to go towards the arena there and stuff. But I would support the town voting to allow them to come in and waive the fee.
So can I make a motion then? I'll make a...
I haven't heard from Paul, so.
Okay.
Paul?
This is money well spent. What else can you say? It's money well spent. It's a smart thing to do. Gets people into the arena. Linda's right. You spend 7, 8, whatever the amount of money is on the arena. It's a lot of money. It just draws more people in. Smart thing. And whatever Brian's motion is, I hope that he says that he will, just kick in that half of it right now, and then the other half will come in. Right? You're going to do that?
Pretty close.
Okay, good. Thanks.
My motion will be that we waive the fee to use a Pop Whalen up to $690, and that I will match any donations, dollar for dollar, that comes in for the event. So if they don't reach their $690, I will pay the balance. If they raise $200, I will match it, however it works. And I would love to see the high school teams get involved, not only helping that day,
I'll second that.
but helping for the event.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. I have a motion by Brian, a second by Paul. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'll give you $100.
I would like to get a tally of all the money that Brian's going to
I
pay.
just gave him $100.
Oh, you're going to pay
Yeah.
some too?
How much we
Okay.
signing you characters up for?
No. No way. Kathy Thurman came up to me and said that she is not ready with her report for tonight, and is the board okay with us tabling that?
No objection.
Okay. We'll go on. The next item is the School Street residents noise ordinance. Is anybody here to speak to that? Come on up to the microphone, state your name.
Hi there, my name is Rob Arndt, A-R-N-D-T. I'm at 40 Union Street, but I also own the house across the street. It's 25 School Street, and I have tenants there.
Okay?
And I have a little extra handout. They were active last night making noise, so I printed up some new pictures of more recent
Yeah,
noise.
come on and hand them out to us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
So basically, this has been going on since the new Hunters was built, I believe. I never heard any noise prior to the old Hunters burning down. There's noises that start somewhere around 2 o'clock in the morning, moving crates, pallets, organizing things, and then some truck deliveries that enter in from the front side, the Main Street side of the loading dock, which is fine. I don't usually hear anything of the truck itself, but now they open up the garage door and they're constantly moving pallets and moving things around that create a lot of noise at random times at night. That can wake you up, but sometimes it doesn't wake me up. I had sent some previous pictures to the board, and I actually had made a foam insert for my window to kind of block out some noise, and that attenuated some of the sound. But I forgot to take it out one morning, and the sun hit it, and it melted my blinds that were in between. But we're just trying to somehow come to, I spoke to Hunters, the manager there, and he said there's nothing they could do. They have deliveries and they have things they need to do. And then I spoke to the police, and they said, oh, they'll send them the sound ordinance. We have a noise ordinance. But then a few days later, the officer called me and said he doesn't believe the noise ordinance that's in place constitutes something that they can do, which I was confused when I had read over the noise ordinance. It was quite comprehensive as far as identifying individual noises that may happen between different things, but then going on to say that really any noise that disturbs the peace of the public can be considered noise.
Okay.
And so I went on to highlight, it's from additional restrictions under 100-5, saying that it's unlawful any person to make or cause to be made any loud or unreasonable noise. Noise shall be deemed to be loud or unreasonable when it disturbs, injures, or endangers the peace or health of another. And I thought that was pretty clear on if it's in the peace part of that. So I didn't know what to do next, so I came to the Board of Selectmen to take a look at, again, at the current ordinance and decide whether that is sufficient.
So I have a couple questions.
Yes.
One question is, and this is a question for everybody aboard too. I live in a family neighborhood. It's not the downtown area, but if someone were unloading and loading trucks across from me, that would be stopped, right?
You know, I think the problem is that it's not, this is general, not specific. So I would think, yes, if it was on a consistent basis. This is down in the commercial district.
Yep.
Where there is loading and unloading. And I think before there were a lot of houses, there were two houses.
Yes, they did tear
between-
down the cleaners and the other house that
opened.
attenuated, and so now it's open. One of the pictures there does show you how the picture, most of the houses that are probably affected by the sound is the houses that are in that 3-house range.
And I mean, the health part would be, everybody knows you need 7 or 8 hours of good, restful sleep a night. If you don't get that, your health can be affected by it. So I don't know how we use this ordinance and how we look at the situation and if it can be addressed, but I do have to acknowledge that this could be something that now, because the lay of the land has changed, it can be bothering families that live in that area. I'm not sure exactly what to do, but I know that if people are being affected by it, it's something that we should at least look at and consider.
Madam Chairman.
Paul?
So I wasn't on the board at the time, but this was during my time of watching television. And I don't know whether it was the planning board, this board, but there were conversations with hunters about truck traffic and loading and unloading materials into the building. And there was a concern raised, and again, I don't know whether it's planning or select board, and there was concern about times of day, when should the trucks show up, when shouldn't they show up. We don't want them to show, I'm just paraphrasing, we don't want them to show up during the business day because people can't get into Walgreens. That's going to create a difficulty. And I guess I would, we're not going to answer, at least I'm not going to be able to answer your question here, but I want to make sure that this town didn't strike some kind of an agreement or an understanding with hunters during that planning activity that may have caused what you're dealing with right now. Okay. It's unclear to me that this noise ordinance applies to what you're doing. I read it. It's not clear to me that it does. It strikes me that the noise ordinance applies to, hey, it's 10 o'clock at night, we're throwing a party, we got to kind of put the beer cans down. It's not clear to me that it applies here, but I really want to know, and maybe if somebody could take a message back to the planning board, or maybe we could look, did we have something in our minutes where we said, okay, it's all right for you to do it, late at night, early in the morning, and, that found its way into the record? If it did, then we're kind of in a different place.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I'd much rather know that now than have hunters, with all due respect, the hunters come back and say, well, wait a minute, you just short-sheeted me. You told me I could do it, now you're telling me I can't, and I just went and built the place. So we probably need to clean up the understanding.
Okay.
Does that make sense to the rest of the board?
Well, I think one thing is this did not come in front of this Board of
Then it
Selectmen.
had to
As
be the
you were
planning
saying,
board.
it is a planning.
It probably came in front of the planning board.
So it is the planning board who would have addressed it, had conversations about it, and if there was anything in the minutes.
Can you
I'll
help me,
move
Linda?
over
Where
to.
was the drainage conversation? Because it was in that night of the drainage.
That's all planning board.
That was the planning
Let me
board.
go over here to
All right.
Brad.
Yeah, what
and then we'll go
I
into-
was looking at the pictures here, and I wanted to kind of confirm in my mind, because I sat on the planning board and remember all the details of the meetings. But I do remember talking about it. There was a retaining wall along the property between your place and the parking lot, and a fence to be on top of that.
It's there.
Yes.
And the pictures shows that it's there and stuff, so, and then I'm looking at the angle of a couple of your pictures there from the second story there.
Yes.
You kind of look right down over that fence into the parking lot, so
Yes.
I can see that your noise would travel up over that to that, which I'm sure that's where the bedrooms are, is in the
That
top
is-
floor up there, so.
That's correct.
So I think at the planning board level, we're assuming that fence and everything going down, because it goes the whole length along there behind, the
Yep.
Wilders building here and stuff too, so I think we were kind of, on the assumption that was going to take care of like a sound barrier there for that. It's obvious we have some kind of I don't call it an unforeseen issue, but there's, something we didn't catch or see at the time, so.
Initially, when they built that fence, it actually was not the solid fence it is now. Later, they came and redid that fence. I don't know why. I never asked, but never thought about it. But they had rebuilt. It used to be just a open fence that divides the Walgreens Hunters area. Now it's more solid.
Yeah.
But what ends up happening is the pictures I showed you of the new handout on the end, all those pallets end up getting moved around in the early morning for some reason. I think they need to bring the empty pallets back to the truck to get taken away when Hannaford delivery comes in, and certainly I think that should be possibly somehow be changed, altered. That creates a lot of noise with power dollies going back and forth, lifting, banging, dropping things accidentally. I'm not sure, and I don't think they're trying to make extra noise.
Right.
I'm wondering if there are other businesses in the downtown area that are also having these kind of activities at night, because I've never heard of this anywhere else. I haven't heard of people on Lerner Street complaining about the loading dock behind Harvest Market, and they're right there also. I haven't heard of anybody complaining over on Pleasant Street or the end of Sewell Wood that there's deliveries and unloading at the Wolfeboro Inn?
Oh, there has been.
At
yeah.
2 o'clock in the morning?
Well, I don't know. There have been complaints
There's
about
been complaints about
Okay,
their,
so
about
let's-
their events, but not, I haven't heard anything about complaints about
I think
trucks
there
unloading
were-
and loading at
I
3
think-
or 2 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the morning.
I don't know the time of the day, but there have been complaints about trucks loading and unloading.
I'm
there.
just wondering if we should look at this and see if this is an isolated issue, that this is the way Hunters is operating, or if this is something that is part of commercial business down there. And I would say again, and I know that people, when they live in a town center, there's more lights and there's more noise and things like that. However, I know that if the noise was happening in other places in downtown, we probably would have heard about it by now. People are not shy.
Well, there is, I mean, we tried to cover, I think, the residential. We have on one paragraph 4 under additional restrictions, and we have operations or use of construction vehicles, including bulldozer, graders, dump trucks, goes on lists, lawn edging, any kind of noise in and maintenance in the residential, and that is from it can't happen from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Monday through. So we've taken care of that in terms of construction and what would happen in a residential area. There is none unless we use, and that would be specific. If we had a paragraph like that that talked about delivery, we would have it. So that is specific here. The only possible place that we could apply is that under additional restrictions B that you were reading, is whether that is the only one.
And that was for under C, express prohibitions, saying that although these are not exclusive, they just went on to list issues, but it said it's not exclusive. So all those listing isn't meant to be, I took it as to be, these are the things we are excluding or are counting as noise. That's just a sample.
I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying that we are very specific.
Yes, you are.
In other places.
Oh, yes, you are.
Okay,
very, yeah.
and that if we applied this, it will be under a general.
Right.
That's,
right.
That's
okay,
my point. Dave, I think you wanted to say something, didn't you?
Yeah, I had a couple of questions. One is, like Brad had mentioned, that the wall and the fence in this one picture,
Yes.
it's pretty obvious that it's there. It was evidently part of the site plan. And this is all open from where this picture is all the way to that building and that fence. Now, I'm assuming that from what I have been over there during the construction, there's only one overhead door, and that's on this side of the building, correct?
No, I called it a garage door. There's another door that's on the other side of the fence that's smaller than that, and it is on grade level. And that is where the crates and pallets tend to be moved in and out. The big trucks do back up on the main parking lot.
So it sounds like you get the big truck come in, they put down pallets, then they take the pallets into a smaller door in the rear?
No, the big truck comes in and it backs up to the loading dock.
Yeah.
But then there's empty pallets coming in and out from the side door on the back side of the building.
Right.
So, but the pallets are coming in and out from the truck, I believe, but they come in they're being stored outside during the day, empty, the empty ones to be returned back to the vendors, I believe.
Okay.
That's why I was asking if, I thought there was another door on the side.
There
small.
is. There, it's a garage door, but it's smaller than.
It seems to me like that if they eliminate taking anything out of the building, and these pictures here showing a forklift with the pallets, and that's probably one of the noisiest forklifts you'll ever see.
That is the noisiest part.
Those hand cart ones. So I can imagine that could be pretty noisy. So I would think that
one simple way to do it would be to not use that garage door during the morning hours, load up everything the night before that's going to go to the truck, have it all in there, and it could be a quiet event over in the corner.
Well, I think that could be the simple way to solve the issue, or at least part of the issue.
Sure. I called Casella
But I
multiple
think-
times for the garbage, because I had the garbage coming in at 4 in the morning at Walgreens, and they would bang the garage to loosen up stuff, and I called them, and they said, oh, what time? I said 6:30. I just told them there was a noise over, and I said, okay, that's fine. And they changed it. I had to change. They get the garbage removal every day, both facilities. They use a lot of garbage, so it comes every morning, but they've moved. Some of it's migrated again by around 5:40 or so I'll have to give them another call, so I'm trying. But I can't call all the vendors. Sometimes the Ryder truck pulls up and have bread and they're throwing around plastic bread trays in the truck, and it's echoing. I've gone over there, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm being quiet. I'm like, no, you're not. You have earbuds on and you're throwing around plastic crates in the box truck.
Board, what would you like to do with this? Do we want to see if we can get a group to sit down and see if we can come to a resolution? That would be the best if we could do something like that.
Yep, I would like to do that. This says noise ordinance, but I also see an issue in here with sewer. There's another part that's part of their complaint that must have been missed.
That is something different. That is being handled right now through codes. There are two issues they brought up. The sewer is the second issue. And my understanding, Mr. Pinio, that is being addressed by the code officer.
Yes, so we sent what's going on here is there's a sewer line that is going through these people's property to service the building on the corner of Union and School Street, and then it goes out to School Street. We've sent them a letter. And at this point, we've had no activity take place, so we're taking next steps with code enforcement to bring that into compliance with the ordinance that's in place.
There's been a couple of houses on that street that have had sewer backed up into their houses.
Yeah, and there's another one with the American Legion, and they're also working on that, where I don't know, at some point they allowed hookups to things that they...
I just brought it to the attention because it's been going on 6 years now. I've tried to get it with David Ford. His failure to have it connected correctly when he was at tenure. So I just want to make sure it's getting moved forward on.
It's continuing to move forward.
Thank you.
Yes,
So
okay.
have you ever had a sewer issue on your property?
I've had lots of sewer issues. Initially, when the town redid their lines, they never connected my 40 Union Street. And 2 years later, because we weren't there that often, it backed up it was never connected.
Wait. You're telling me that there was a manhole in the street and your line was broken off of it and not reconnected to it?
Yeah, they forgot to reconnect on the corner. The water comes from one side, and I believe they thought the sewer was coming from the same side and never matched up and never got reconnected when they came in and redid it.
That has been addressed.
That's done, yeah.
So that's nothing for us.
2 years?
Yeah, 2 years.
Madam Chair.
Okay,
Madam Chair.
It was just my wife and I, so.
Madam Chair.
okay. Paul, did you want to say?
Yeah, I did.
Okay,
I agree with the idea. We're not going to solve the problem here.
Yep.
It may have been an estoppel created by the planning board. We probably ought to ask them a question. Because it was a pretty thorough discussion, I remember, about deliveries and the back lot, and that was going to be I do remember that quite vividly, and it was around that conversation of drainage. So I do agree. We got to get some folks, and if hunters would like to participate, we can probably help get them in a room too. Sit down and try to square the difference here.
Okay.
But I would like to know from the planning board if you need a motion for that, Linda, or whatever. I want to know from the planning board. Could they just tell us as they comb through their records, did they create a situation where, it could be considered estoppel? They said, okay, you can go ahead and do
let's
that.
not throw out things that we have no
whatever
idea
it is.
about.
They said you could go do that. So we want to make sure we understand what they agreed to.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any member of the board who'd like to head this? I'm more than willing to.
I'll
Okay,
join you.
Paul and I, and we'll get a hold of and talk to Jim and we'll try to get hunters and a bunch of you together and see if we can come up with a solution, which would be the best for all of us, and if not, then
Yes.
we'll have to see what the second step is.
Okay, thank you
Okay?
very much.
So, you'll hear from us.
Okay.
Yes,
You don't have to call us back.
All right.
We'll reach out, we'll find you.
All right.
How's that?
I appreciate that, thank you.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, good.
Next item on the agenda is Huggins Hospital Salt Agreement, Public Works Director.
Good evening, Steve Randall, Public Works. This is just a re-up of the agreement we've had with Huggins that predates me. They come down during the storms or pre-storm and buy salt from us, or get salt from us and then reimburse us for what they've used. So it's same contract, same verbiage.
Yep.
Just new dates.
And we have,
New dates, that's
New
all.
dates, yep, they've been very great. They're very easy to work with.
yep. And we've kept this on a 1 year until we're finished with the drainage hole issue with Route 28, and then I think at some point we can do a multi-year, but where we are right now. Does any board members have any issue?
Nope.
Hearing none, can I have a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to authorize the chair of the board of the town manager to sign the annual agreement for 2024-25.
Second.
All right, I'll give it to Dave this time. I have a motion by Brad, a second by Dave. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, next item on the agenda, organizational chart of the town positions. Jim, that's you.
Yeah, so back in August, I came in front of you and we had a discussion about town positions and vacancies and a path moving forward. I have that screen up, or that shot up on the screen right now. There's a couple positions that I want you to particularly pay attention to, and that is the Parks and Rec Department and the Pop Whalen Department. A couple of shifts which have taken place in there, and these shifts have been based on the leaving of some staff, discussion with people about how the positions are working, what's not working, and how we may be able to gain some efficiencies without creating any more headcount going forward. So what we've done, number one, if you look at the top, it goes Board of Selectmen, Town Manager, and then Assistant Town Manager. Doesn't come out terribly great on this screen, but I'll talk our way through it. As you are well aware, we've discussed this in depth for a period of time. Casey is approaching retirement. Her approach to retirement is predicated on the fact that we've hired a new finance director, which I'll get into momentarily. Over the next year, some of the items that Casey is going to be tackling is fees. We've identified that we want to make some adjustments to some of our fees going forward and how we tackle those fees and what is comparable to other communities going forward, and to try and help to take some of the burden off of the taxpayer. Secondly, oversight of grants. We have a significant number of grants that come through. Currently, we are using some of our engineering services for that, but when we do that, we tend to lose oversight. So grant funding is another major issue that she is going to be overseeing. Not the means and methods of the projects, but more the finance end of the projects. Additionally, on top of that, she's going to be grooming our new finance director, who will give her first finance report in a few minutes. She's been on for a little over a month now. She's growing rapidly and is going to be a great fit. The big change when you look at Parks and Rec Department, one of the things that was identified with the director of Pop Whalen and Abenaki, that director position, it was overloaded based on the fact that those two positions, or those two entities are working at the same time. The ski area is going, the ice arena is going, and it's a lot for one person to be able to manage. We already have an assistant director in place. So one of the things that we've talked with Christine about, the Director of Parks and Recreation, and staff, is actually placing the Assistant Director, Bo Betts, in charge of the Abenaki facility going forward, and he will work with those user groups and maintain the mountain and keep that going. We have the maintenance department, and then we have the Pop Whalen Ice and Art Center, which we have recently hired a new director who you will meet shortly. His name is Brian Paul. So those are the big changes within the organization at this point. I'll try to answer any questions that you have without getting into a lot of detail. Okay. Because it could go on for hours.
The only question I have is there any way, shape, or form that we can have Parks and Rec be also eyes and boots on the ground for the bike trails, in addition to the ski hill and the rink?
That would, I do believe, increase staffing requirements. Right now, I do believe that, let's see how this Chuck Sumner liaison works out. If the Chuck Sumner liaison doesn't work out, then I think that's something we're going to have to look at tackling, Brian.
We might be able to, I don't know if there could be a conversation with Christine, if the current staff could swing a half an hour or 40 minutes here or there a couple of times a week and use an e-bike like was donated to the police department by one of the bike companies in Rochester. Maybe we can get a second one, or maybe if the police department doesn't use it on a regular basis, it could be swapped between the police department and Parks and Rec, and we could have some more eyes on there, because I've found out recently that there are 2 other road trails that have been built there since we started working with the Single Track Alliance, and the trail builder actually said those trails aren't even safe. And so I think the town is going to need to step up and make sure that we know exactly what's going on there.
I will take that under advisement and have a conversation with Christine about a path forward, but it is going to be a challenge with the bandwidth, budget, and everything coming in front of us for the upcoming budget.
And I will agree with Brian that I also did the walk and talked to the trail builder, and there are trails. And my question is, if you know there are trails there and people know that they're building them, how come nobody tells us and helps us out? And I think when we start looking at having to add staff, the board is really going to have to look whether it can have any more trails out there, that we're having a hard time handling what we have out there right now. So that's where I am. Yep, Paul.
No, I agree with everybody. But I also don't believe that we should dilute our resources. If this is important to the town, if there's a safety issue at hand, if there's road trails being built, if it's unsafe, all those things, add staff, deal with it. If you don't add staff, you dilute the other people from doing the important stuff of keeping the Abenaki going, making sure dilution is not what we should be doing. It's a disrespectful comment, here it comes. It's a dumb idea to dilute staff. Give them a job, give them a clear remit. If it costs more money, we have 2 choices to make. Take it from someplace else, or ask the voters to pony up the money. Those are the only 2 options I see have. I would add staff if you guys think it's an important thing to do. But that would, Jim, that would be an ask you'd make to the Board of Selectmen.
Dave, Paul, and Brad, any comments?
No, I'm all set.
We got Chuck, who volunteered, who's out there. I guess my comment is we did, because the voters said they wanted these trails, we accepted them. I think we have to think long and hard about any others, and we've had trouble with people building trails out there. Most of the trails out there were built with no support of the town, so we're trying to get something under control, is my feeling. With what I see in the budget, I don't think we can add another staff with the numbers that we're looking at. So I'm hoping Chuck will work, but I think what Brian and I are saying, we still got issues out there. Are you done, Jim, or are you?
Yeah, that's the summary that I have.
Okay. And were you going to bring anybody else up?
So I was going to do that as we get into the different reports.
Okay, perfect.
Can I just make an observation,
Yep.
Linda? So, thanks for the update on Casey's expanded role. You know, we're going to be talking about our work plan, and I think one of the things that might be on our work plan, I think as you've mentioned, is how do we get our arms around revenues? So it's nice to hear that there may be some alignment from what Casey's doing, and grant administration, a big issue. Got it. So I'd like to make sure that we bring that expanded role of Casey into the conversation when we talk about the work plan for the Board of Selectmen this year.
I did. I thought it was going to get on this agenda, but I'll get it on the other. You and I are the only two who have put in any ideas for
Well, there you
our
go.
work plan. So if anybody else on this board has any ideas for our work plan, I would like them, because I will have it on the next agenda. Okay. Next item is the October actual versus budget.
So Sam Kelly is our new finance director. Like I said, she's been here for a little over a month now. Sam is a Wolfeboro resident. Prior to coming to the town of Wolfeboro, Sam worked for a period of time at Huggins Hospital, and prior to that, she worked for the City of Rochester and the City of Rochester School District. In the school district, she was the business administrator for the Rochester School District, which is the equivalent to a finance director, and she did the same thing for the City of Rochester. I will sit here and say, Sam, it's a pleasure to have in the office. I know she's a little bit nervous about coming up and doing this evening, but she's here to deliver her first finance report to you, and welcome, Sam.
Thank you. So again, I'm Sam Kelly, Finance Director. I'm here to give my first actual versus budget report for October. As of the end of October, we were 10 months or 83% through the year. That being said, with our operating budget in regards to that, the general fund was at 86%, the water fund was at 81%, the municipal electric fund was at 84%, sewer fund at 92%, and Pop Whaling fund at 97%. For the revenue side of things, the general fund had collected at that point 59%, water fund 84%, the municipal electric fund 76%, sewer fund 75%, and the Pop Whaling fund 66%. That being said, this will change drastically over the next month. As you know, the DRA has set tax rates, the tax billings have gone out, and we're already starting to see the property tax revenue come in. Also since then, just today, upon Jim's return, we had him sign a repayment agreement with the Department of Environmental Services for a drinking water state revolving fund loan. The amount of the loan was $714,509. The town is eligible for $148,065 in principal forgiveness, and that portion will be granted at the time of our first payment, which will be December 1st. It's a 20-year term. It's at 0% interest, but there is a small admin fee of 1.256% over that 20 years. And that is all I have.
Hey,
any questions?
Board members have any questions or concerns? No. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
Okay, the Pop Whaling Revenue Report, Park and Rec Director, and
So Christine's going to come up and give you the Pop Whalen operational report. I know it's been a couple months since you've received them. And then she's going to introduce Brian Paul to you. Brian is going to be our new director, operations manager for the Pop Whalen Ice Arena. He'll be working under Christine. He'll have a direct line to me as we continue to try and figure this thing out to make it profitable. Brian has an excellent history in scheduling and working at managing other arenas and has a lot of hockey contacts, and we do believe that he is going to be a good resource to try and improve our utilization of the arena and be invaluable in helping us set rates and moving different programs into the arena. So Christine, and then Brian.
Thank you. The report that you have is the ice utilization. There were 109 hours of ice used in the month of October, with 534 hours of ice used this year to date. This is 65% of the ice used compared to the budget. This is contracted ice time not bought by the town, so this would include all of Back Bay, Kingswood, Brewster, any tournaments, any ice that we're selling to other organizations. This does not include Stick or Public, which we purchase through the town. I believe you didn't get reports over the summer. So programs in the summer and the spring we had mostly programs by Parks and Recreation. We did our summer kickoff in the facility. We also had a national senior citizen health and wellness fair at that facility as well. And then we did offer pickleball this summer. It wasn't as popular as it was last year. And I think last year we had a lot more rain days than we had this year, so that could be possibly why. We did rent again to Level Up Pickleball, so they rented the facility for 2 or 3 days. And then we had Howl at the Moon was an event we had there, and the American Legion also hosted an event there as well. Advertising for the facility, we've created a new Facebook page, Pop Whalen Ice and Arts Center and Abenaki Ski Area. They're combined, and we actually have been going on weekly to post the Stick and public skating times, because I know we have heard a lot of people saying there's difficulty finding when they are, if they have to go to our website. So we've been trying to publish it more so they know week by week what we have available. And we also, our new brochure came out November 1st, so there is advertising done in there as well.
So I just have a couple of observations or quick questions.
Okay.
Brewster's used 172 hours year to date. They have 4 teams?
They have 2 teams.
So they only have 2 teams that use our rink. Their JV teams don't come over here.
No.
Okay, so they have 2 teams and they're using 172. Back Bay has 2 teams?
Yes.
And they've used 144. Kingswood has
2 teams.
2 teams. Did Kingswood start later, or?
So these numbers, the year-to-date numbers, you're thinking of?
Oh, so they're from the fall?
No, it's from January to March,
January,
which was
the spring.
Yes.
Okay. So
and
those
then
are the
typically Kingswood starts after Thanksgiving, so they really haven't been on yet.
Okay.
And so that goes. So then what we're looking at now is September 22nd is when we opened until right now.
So the budgeted hours, if I look at those, I see Brewster's at 174 and Back Bay at 350.
So that was from the previous director. He had submitted that, so I'm not sure exactly where he got those budgeted numbers, but that was in there. Yes, so that's the budgeted numbers that he predicted, and then this is what I have in the system.
Interesting.
Of what was used, and on the next sheet you'll see for November and December what is planned to be used.
Okay. When a team budgeted their hours, do they use all those hours?
Typically, yes. In our contract, they have to give a 30-day notice if they are going to cancel out of any of those hours.
Okay.
But we don't see that. When I asked her earlier, when we see the contract, we don't see the hours booked with that contract.
Right. So what I can do is give you, I can print out a schedule of what we discussed when they signed their contract and what is booked in the system.
Just as a general rule of thumb, cancellation rate, what is it? High, low, medium? Does it depend on the?
If they don't cancel within 30 days in writing, unless it's inclement
How many
weather,
have you had?
they're paying for the ice.
How many have you had?
I'm sorry?
How many of those have you had?
Not very many. Once they book their ice, they don't really cancel. It's really if weather discrepancies or if there's some
Force
freak
majeure.
thing with the bus or something.
So I was trying to figure out why I was having such a hard time keeping track of this enterprise fund and concerned about the money we're losing. So I like files. I went back into my file, and in February of 2024, I found a printout of what we projected, what the finance director projected was going to be the revenue and how many hours the different groups were going to use. And it was interesting, it was $250 per hour. Also on this, Back Bay was only going to use 320. So then I went to my June report, and my June report came out, and it's using $240. So we've already are reporting on a smaller amount. And then when I looked at the one that's here today, the October 31st, it's $230. So I can't, it's very hard for me to get a real understanding here because numbers keep on changing. And so when Casey starts to look at that and you take over, consistency, letting us see the budget and compare everything to the budget would be a great help to us so that we can, and I know this doesn't have to do, there've been a lot of hands on here, but it is hard to know where we are in terms of revenue. We know specifically where we are on expenses, which are very high. So this is what I hope that we can do better another year, and that I will keep a better eye on it too, because it took me a while to come back and figure out what was going on here. So,
I'm just a little,
Brian,
I'm a little.
Can you raise your hand so I can get it? You know, I don't mind what you have to say, but Paul, I think, wanted to speak next.
Please, no.
So my only question is, I'm wondering why Pop Whalen's numbers have gone down, but their ice hours used have gone up. And it confuses me, because I would have seen something different for a trend. If they're having, instead of 8 teams, they're having 2 teams, why their number of hours they're using is going up.
For who? For Back Bay?
For Back Bay, yeah.
So their teams may be down, but if they have tournaments, then that is counted in their ice. So it might not necessarily be just their practices, but if they have a tournament that falls under them, then that's where you'll see the increase in hours.
Okay.
You ready?
Thank you, Linda, for pointing out that we have different views of revenue. And I agree with Linda. I'd characterize it sometimes as wavy gravy. You got to you can't follow the ball, all right? But thankfully, we have a solution at hand, pointing student body left, right? I was going to ask an indelicate question, but I held it back. But Linda has teed me up. Since I became a board member again, I've been looking at the expenses, and every time that the predecessor came, I would ask the question, do you think we're going to make the budget? And I've asked that of several people, and the answer I have received has been, and I'm going to be honest, unsatisfactory. One answer I get is, that's the plan. Well, I'm just going to tell you that right now we are 97% spent through the month of October. 66% of the revenue has showed up. I have no idea whether we'll get to 100% of revenue. I don't know. We're 97% spent. I'll bet you a nickel we're not going to make the expense budget. And so my indelicate question for next time is, what management actions are being taken to avoid a budget overrun at the Pop Whalen? And you have and that's for Jim and for everybody. I can't expect you or Sam to answer that. Whether we totally unfair. But where's the money going to come from when we go over 100%? Maybe we won't. But now it's October. We have 60 days left, and that steam is coming out of the pipe, and we're doing all that kind of. So that's my indelicate question for next time. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
One of the other things I was thinking about as I was working on the Pop Whalen Enterprise Fund, that our other enterprise fund, our water, our sewer, and our electric, we hire a consultant who gets all the expenses, all our capital projects, and gives us the rate. This is the one that we're having to do it ourselves. It's smaller, but that's the difference. That's all put together by a consultant, so I just wanted to point that out. Anybody else have any questions, concerns? Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm going to pass it over to Brian Paul, who is our new operations manager for Pop Whalen, and just let him tell you a little bit about himself.
Okay.
Thanks, Christine.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Brian Paul. I am the new Director of Operations at Pop Whalen. I come from doing over 30 years in the ice hockey business and the ice arena business, including working for over 10 years as the Operation Director of the largest skating rink in the world down in Marlborough, Massachusetts, the New England Sports Center, which has 10 rinks under one roof. My goal here is to get us to the place where we need to be and to bring in new clientele and new events and new excitement to the facility. Is it going to happen overnight? No. Is it going to happen in the next 6 months to a year? That's the goal. But it's going to be one day at a time, and we've already started after 3 days. We've got a lot of things in the works right now that hopefully will be satisfactory to everybody, including the community and the board. So thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you, and welcome aboard.
Welcome aboard.
Yep. Okay, next item is the MRI report. Jim?
Okay, so I'm just going to kind of glaze over this. About a little over a year ago, we started an endeavor regarding ambulance service for the town of Wolfeboro. You saw myself, Chief Zotti, and Deputy Chief Nichols put together 3 presentations for you. One outlined the anticipated expenses to bring ambulance services under the fire department with a couple of different staffing levels. You saw a presentation that gave you estimated revenues based on what we were seeing from other communities of similar makeup. And then that was compiled into a final presentation that came in front of you. In that final presentation, one of the takeaway items was to have a third party come in, evaluate the proposal that was put together, and come back with some responses. On October the 25th, MRI came back with their initial findings on the proposal that we put together. Their number one finding was, we recommend that the town develop fire-based EMS transport system. The transition should be facilitated through the development of a phased partnership with the current private EMS provider. The town should assume all 911 transport responsibility on January 1, 2027. That is a change from one of the proposals, or the proposal that we gave to you. We gave you a proposal that had the fire department ramping up in staffing and then making a wholesale change into the ambulance business on a January 1 time frame. So this gives the ability to have transition, which takes time over a period of time, and that transition does add cost. to this because you're going to be having two services operating at the same time. You're going to increase staffing, and you are also going to be paying for an ambulance service until fire department gets to a point where they can take it on fully. They have gone through and they projected the costs very similar to what we did previously. I think one of the big changes compared to my proposal that we put together with the chief is the staffing levels. The staffing levels are significantly, I would say, higher, but they do provide equivalent services to what is being delivered today to the town. It also does very much so mirror what the ad hoc committee has put together, which I think is important for people to know. The ad hoc committees will be presenting very shortly. So I think at the end of this report, the takeaway is they've provided an anticipated timeline, which I'll summarize for you. July 2025, hire a deputy chief of EMS. August 2025, purchase and equip 2 ambulances. October of 2025, obtain transport license and initiate transport as backup service, staffing minimum 4 personnel. October 2025, hire 1 firefighter on a temporary day shift to work with the deputy and staff, and hire deputy and staff the backup ambulance during peak daytime hours. January 2026, hire 2 additional firefighters EMTs, provide 1 primary transport unit, alternating calls with a private provider, staffing 4 personnel minimum. July 2026, hire, train, and orientate 3 additional firefighter EMTs. July 2026, provide 1 ambulance to transport as a primary unit, 24/7, staffing with a minimum of 5 during day, 4 at night. January 2027, provide 2 transport EMS units and assume full responsibility of 911 transport within the town. Staffing of 6 personnel per group and a minimum shift strength of 5, which you'll find is very similar to what is being proposed by the ad hoc committee. I think this is a good baseline document to show what we put together a year ago. It does make some adjustments, which I think if the town wants to go forward with these, I'm behind supporting. And with that said, we will put this on the website tomorrow as it's a public document. I will find out when the full report will be delivered, but this gives a good initial findings. And I'll try to answer any questions you may have before we hand it over to the ad hoc committee.
I guess I would like to hear from the ad hoc committee and then talk about where the 2 of them, they come to the same thing, but they get equipment and staff in a different sequence.
Correct.
Is the only thing I really saw out of it, but I'd kind of like to hear from both and then have a good discussion. How do other board members feel? Is that okay?
Yeah, I like that approach.
So we've set up tables for 4 people from the ad hoc committee who are going to speak, if they'd come up. Number one, I'd like to thank all the members of the ad hoc committee for your work. I know that this was a long, tedious Tuesday afternoon endeavor, so thank you very much.
Well, I'll start us out. I am Dr. Raymond Stolarski, and I was the chair and also one of the citizen reps of the ad hoc committee.
Can you pull the mic a little bit closer, just so it, thank you. You almost have to eat it.
And with this, we took a lot of time and spent a lot of hours on this. And I know in your packet you received this. This is far from the final product that we have. There's in the cloud 196 pages of material to back up what we're going to present to you. I know Amy has that, but it's in the cloud because we didn't want to run off 200 pages for all of you. So when you want to do a deep dive, you'll be able to go into the cloud. Also, with this, I would like to introduce the members of the ad hoc committee that were with us throughout all of this. And of course, I don't have that. Here it is. All right, the vice chair and also the other citizen rep was Justin Brown. From the select board, your fellow select board members was Paul O'Brien and Brian DeShay. On the budget committee was Bob Tuffer and Bob Lohman. The assistant town manager, Catherine Carpentier. The fire chief, Tom Zotti. The fire department union rep was Tim Gathram. And the alternate citizen was James Dearborn Jr. And then the alternate for the fire chief was the deputy chief, Nate Nichols. With that, I want to just state that each individual on this committee brought something unique and inherent in this discussion and final decision that this committee made and will present to you tonight. And with that, I'll turn it over to Justin Brown to start us off.
Good evening, I'm Justin Brown. I'm the vice chairman and representing the citizens. And this great group of people was tasked with determining if the fire department-based 911 ambulance service or a contracted 911 ambulance service is the best path forward for the town of Wolfeboro by making the best financial and operational suggestion to the town. And to that end, I will hand it over to the fire chief, Tom Zotti.
Thank you. Tom Zotti, Fire Chief. How we got here, the history of the issue, as you might recall, in early 2023, I contacted Stewart's Ambulance to discuss renewal of the then existing contract, and at that time was told that they were not interested in renewing the contract. I met with the town manager, and that resulted in an RFP, a request for proposals, that we put out in early summer of 2023. We had 2 responses, and based on the dollar figures involved in those responses, fire administration and the town manager met, and that's when we started in earnest developing the program that Jim referred to in the earlier presentation. At the end of the year, there was a decision made to have the third-party MRI review what we had put forth. Obviously, you just received that, and that also resulted in the creation of this committee. And essentially, we're here tonight to share our findings. Around the rest of the state of New Hampshire, in short, we have a problem. The trend, frankly, is disturbing of private ambulances services closing, at least on the 911 delivery. Most recently, you may have seen in the news, Lincoln and Woodstock, company referred to as Linwood Ambulance, has approached those communities asking for a significant additional fee to continue operation, and that is ongoing as we speak. The city of Berlin recently, when presented with a higher fee schedule from a private provider, has elected to go to fire-based EMS and is in the process of doing that. In the Keene area, a private contractor, Deluzio Ambulance, closed on reasonably short notice, and a number of different things took place to make up that loss. Also, fairly recently, Exeter Hospital discontinued or announced they were discontinuing their paramedic intercept program, which served multiple communities in and around Exeter. There was an outcry from those communities about the loss of the service. That closure was delayed at least until the end of December, as we understand it, and the New Hampshire Attorney General is involved, understanding as a result of different contract situations that may be affected by that. So my point, I think, is that the trend is not in our favor on the private side of things. A recent study, and this is in your backup material, of the members of the New Hampshire Ambulance Association, the membership said 68% of the members felt we're in an EMS crisis in New Hampshire, primarily due to problems with the amount of Medicare reimbursement and private insurance carrier reimbursements. The short story is the reimbursements don't cover the cost, which means they approach their communities having to get bigger and bigger fees to provide the service. As this committee met and discussed options, we felt obviously we need to develop a program that avoids those issues, and I think we've done that. Census data shows about 33% of the residents of the town of Wolfeboro are age 65 plus, and I'll say it, as we age, we tend to require more EMS services in general. We have many local communities specific to that age group, by name Sugar Hill, the Taylor community, the Ledges, Christian Ridge, Wolfeboro Bay Center Nursing Home, obviously cater to, in large part, that demographic group, which requires a higher level of service. All you, Doc.
All right. Based on the knowledge that we have the potential for a crisis situation, the committee came up with the following findings for a phased-in plan to integrate the fire-based ambulance service starting in 2025. And I just wanted to make a statement, because you hear this many times, transport service. It's not a transport service, it's an ambulance service. We're providing EMS care, and we do take them to the hospital, but we're not just transporting. And while we're working up to a complete transition of this service as of December 31st of 2026, what this breaks down into is that we're looking at the approval of the 2025 financials at the town meeting in March of 2025. There would be the hiring of the deputy chief of EMS around April 1st of 2025, and the individual would bring about the implementation of the operations of an ambulance with the added staffing on July 1st, 2025 to operate with a minimum manning of 4 on duty at the firehouse. Then the next year we would have approval of the 2026 financials in March of that year, adding the remaining staff on July 1st of 2026, bringing the total operations with a minimum of 5 on duty at the firehouse. This would be on a 24/7 basis. Also, at the same time, we would implement the operation of the second ambulance within the late segment of 2026, completing the complete transition going forward, as the contract with Stewart's Ambulance will end on December 31st of 2026. As of January 1st, 2027, Wolfeboro Fire and EMS will be providing 2 squads 24/7 for the implementation and care of the citizens. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to Kathy for the financials regarding the implementation of this along those years.
Catherine Carpentier. Is it on?
We'll get it.
There you go, I think you did.
Hello? Yeah, is it on? No? All right.
No, not very well.
All right, here we go. Sorry. Had to be my mic, right?
Yeah.
Catherine Carpentier, I was the finance director on this committee, so I'm going to give you the financial impact to the committee's findings. In 2025, when we hired the EMS deputy chief as of April 1st, 2025, we will also hire 3 new employees with the start date of July 1st, 2025. The total for the above 4 hires in 2025 will be $246,880. Insurance on those employees would be $106,510. Additional operating funds needed, $93,833, such as radios, PPE, uniforms, professional development. We'd also need to purchase a car for the Deputy Chief of EMS for $75,000 and purchase a fully equipped used ambulance for $294,000 that was requested in the CIP process over the summer. The total request for 2025 would be $816,223. The financial impact for 2026 would be a full year of the Deputy Chief for EMS, a full year of the previous 3 hires, and a hire 3 new employees with a start date of July 1st, 2026. The total for the above would be $532,702. Insurance on those 7 employees would be $255,485. Additional operating funds needed, $114,719, and we'd purchase a fully equipped new ambulance of $500,000. The total request would be $1,402,905. The financial impact in 2027, full year of the Deputy Chief of EMS and the new 6 hires, $710,491. Insurance on the above for $319,986, and operating funds $75,089, a total of $1,105,566. Those figures in year 1, we'd also have to simultaneously be paying stewards $777,000, and in 2026, with a 4% increase, $808,800. We assumed full payments to stewards in 25 and 26 and no payment in 2027, but we anticipate renegotiating the contract with stewards in 25 and 26 as we begin to implement ambulance services. In 2027, we hope to be accepting the anticipated revenue of a net of $350,000, less any billing and collection fees that we may have. That is the financial impact of the committee's findings. I also, on the slide on page 9, we left the RFP amounts that we had back in 2023. I'll hand it over to the fire chief.
This is the proposed organizational chart for the fire rescue department at program build out. In other words, this would be at the end of 2026. Actually, quite frankly, it's very similar to our current organizational chart, but this shows the placement of the Deputy Chief of EMS and the additional line firefighter EMTs on the 3 groups. So as we developed the program here over the last several months, we developed a number of key points, or at one point we called them pillars. Our hope, our goal, our intent is to provide the optimal pre-hospital care for the citizens and visitors of the town of Wolfeboro. We hope, or we intend to provide a greater overall financial value with improved resources and safety across the services, and we implement this using a traditional transitional approach.
Getting back with the critical success factors to this is the fact that by taking over the ambulance service, we have total control through the fire and rescue department to implement this. And we have the added advantage that we have a transitional time period in which to work with. That's significant because so many of the towns around us are losing their ambulance service either through their private ambulance just leaving on its own and leaving them wondering what we're going to do in the next week or 2. We have a 2-year period in which to do this. It gives us an opportunity to implement the starting of the squads, having the people start taking the calls, getting the training done, getting all the licensing done as we make that transition. At the same time, Stewart's is working with us on this so that as we're ramping up, they're ramping down, so that at the end of that 2-year period, they walk away from this because they don't want to be involved in the 911 service any longer. and we can take over when we have better control. We have improved resources because that deputy chief is not only working over EMS, he's also the third in command of the department. So he's not just EMS, he's also on the fire side. And every one of the individuals that gets hired to implement this is also fire and EMS. Whereas what we have right now, Stewart's does nothing when it comes to the fire side of things. Overall, the financial value, we showed you those numbers because up front there is a cost, but in the long run, we feel that is a benefit to us and it does reduce it. And ultimately, when we work all of this together, we're working for a recommendation. So the Wolfeboro Ad Hoc Ambulance Service Evaluation Committee recommends the Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen adopt, support, and create relevant warrant articles for the 2025 town meeting in support of fire-based ambulance service in the Wolfeboro Fire Rescue Department. This program will be phased in and fully transitioned to the fire and rescue operation of 2 ambulances by December 31st of 2026. It includes hiring of a deputy chief of EMS and addition of 6 personnel to operate with a minimum staffing of 5 line personnel on duty around the clock at the firehouse. The committee also encourages the town to pursue any available grant funding opportunities to help offset the capital and staffing costs. This recommendation also allows us to be in a position so as to prevent situations that many towns across the state have had and are facing regarding the degradation and elimination of EMS services in a short period of time. At this point, I'll entertain any questions from the board and the town manager.
Well, it's a lot to absorb. I went back and read the chiefs and the town manager report and all that, but there is a commonality. I'd like to see, does any of the 2 selectmen who are on the committee have anything they want to add? You're all set? Okay. Board members? Okay, good.
So I think there's, first of all, the committee was well-mannered, despite myself and Brian's attendance. It was good. A lot of thrashing, trying to sort out what to do. But there's 3 things I think the public needs to think about. Well, 4 things. Number 1 is last year at the deliberative session, this Board of Selectmen asserted that this town is going to have an ambulance service provider. It was either going to be us or it was going to be somebody else. And there was no objection by anybody in the audience or this board. So I believe we've crossed that bridge. We've made the decision, unless somebody wants to object to that. The next thing to think about is, do you believe that the committee has done a good job telling you that there is a problem in this state with the for-profit providers? And in my personal opinion, the answer is, there's a problem. And it's not limited only to our state, it's probably limited to our country. Why is that? Medicare reimbursements are changing. We have people who believe that ambulance service doesn't necessarily have to be supported by healthcare insurance. There's just a whole bunch of things out there. So I believe that proof is important for the voters to understand. If you believe that proof, then the next question is, do you really believe the financials that we've provided? And that's up to you to figure that out. And then the third question is, do you really believe that we know what we're doing? Can we pull it off? And on the third question, I believe we know what we're doing. Whether we have 1, 2 more staff than we need, 1 less, I trust, it's an important word, that we have a fire chief, we have a whole swath of people who understand this. And to the credit of MRI or Stewart's, we have an incumbent that actually has acted pretty honorably during this period. So it's up to you, the voter, or us, the Board of Select people, to decide whether we just buy off on the financials. One thing I will caution is that over time, we better keep our eyes on those financials so that we don't have a financial embarrassment, because it could get very costly very quickly unless we watch this thing from a financial assurance point of view. So I think the committee did a great job. Thank you.
Brian?
I'll be short.
Not like you, Brian.
So I hang my hat on what Jim Pinio said a year and a half, 2 years ago, when he said that this is what's happening in the state of New Hampshire. And I did my own research and worked with this group. 72%, and that was last June or July, 72% of all the communities in the state of New Hampshire are using a fire-based system. I think in Wolfeboro, if 72% of the towns in the state can do it, there's no reason why we can't do it as well or better than any of them. Now, there is going to be a financial burden in the first 2 years as we transition into it. But I'm hoping, in my mind, and I think the committee looked at it, that in a short period of time, we will be breaking even or saving money over what we pay to an outside service, and we are going to be, as the group has said, in charge of our own destiny, in control of everything that happens with our service. And I think that's the right way to go.
Dave?
I was a little skeptic at first in reference to the fire-based ambulance service, but the reports that I have read and that we have here, and was what you people presented tonight, certainly makes a lot of sense. My only concern is we, as a town right now, have a lot of open positions that we cannot fill with people, physically fill. We're talking about 6 to 7 more people added to the fire service that have to be EMTA or EMTs or paramedics. One of the fortunate things from what I read and what we have too is that the hospital is going to continue with their paramedic. So that's, if you will, a plus for us, because they have supplied a paramedic off and on for quite a few years. So my concern is, are we going to be able to hire 6 or 7 more firefighters and then train them for EMTA or EMT or paramedic? That's my big concern, is manpower. We have positions now in the town. We're not getting anybody to apply for those positions. And if we're having this crisis with the ambulance services closing around the state and other towns going to fire-based ambulance services, there's going to be a dogfight here for people. And, you know, I don't know what the wages are for those people. In other towns, maybe they can supply more money or less money. Cost of living in certain areas is higher than others. So you got to look at what you're going to pay somebody to come here to work. So that's a concern. I have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with going to this service, but yes, there are probably some of the ambulance people that are now going to be without jobs because these ambulance services are closing down. But how many of those people are licensed for certain things that we need? We also need firefighters to back up, you know, to do double duty like we have now. I mean, we have that. We've had it for years. But my concern is the people that we're going to have to hire. And yes, we have good benefits, we have good insurance, but that doesn't always bring people here. People want to come here. Most of us are here because we want to be here.
Well, Two things. The first is with Huggins. If you'll notice, there's a letter in there from Huggins Hospital saying they'll continue it. But there's a line in there that says when available.
It's always been that way, if I remember right.
Very much so. And right now, you know, that is hit or miss. So that's not something to depend on. The other aspect is there's no doubt about it that, you know, when you go out to hire individuals, what are you presenting them with? And you spoke of some of the benefits that the town has. As a firefighter, you live 1/3 of your life at that fire station. And there's something to be said for this town because they have new equipment. They have a brand new firehouse that's out there now. That says a lot for an individual that's looking where he wants to work when they spend 1/3 of their life there. And I'll turn it over to the chief for any additional.
I really don't have much to add other than your concern is valid, and I think I'll get a head nod from the rest of the group is that we discussed that, and I think we've identified that as the primary risk to this. But I'm confident that, as Doc said, this is an attractive place to work. You know, I can't explain in some cases why other positions go unfilled, but as we discussed, you know, we were building a new building. We have top-of-the-line equipment. We have the support of the community. We have the support of the policy boards. But you're not wrong. It will be challenging to maintain this on a schedule. Certainly not impossible. Again, I think in fulfilling our mission, this is something that is kind of the next in line, if you will, and it's a chance, it's an opportunity, I think, for potential new hires as well to have influence on the ground floor of a program like this. Talking to some of our members, as we've had brought them on in the last few years, it's, you know, we have the ability to bring people on who have certain skill sets, perhaps from outside of the fire service, and we have we're a small enough organization to let them kind of do their thing and have influence on how we move forward. And this, I think, can be a prime example of that, is we'll have people who are in on the ground floor of how this is going to look going forward for years. And I think that's attractive. Obviously, we need to maintain, you know, a competitive benefit package and a competitive salary and so forth. But I think in the end, I think we're all confident that we can do this.
Now you have to go to the town meeting and sell it.
Oh, absolutely.
Same as us. We've got to be able to sell this to the community, and you've got to stress not so much what is going to happen in the next 2 years, but after that. That's what I see from the numbers that I have.
That's correct.
It's after the second year, going into the third year, and after that it's going to be a break-even, quote, situation. So, and again, some of that can change too.
Sure.
Some of the Medicare, Medicaid stuff can change, and that's where, as you said, the biggest part of your income is going to come from.
Yep.
Because of the number of old people like me and the rest of us here.
Some of us are gaining on you.
Yeah. Well, but anyway, that's where it's going to come from. And we just saw a slight raise in our tax rate. We've got to go through a reval. You know, we've got all kinds of stuff on our plates in the next few years alone, not just with this. So,
absolutely
again,
right.
you need to be able to sell it. You people need to be able to sell it.
We'll be there
town
to do
meeting.
that, but again, we go back to...
We'll back you. I will. But you people have done I think, a very nice presentation, and it makes sense. It's pretty simplified, and that's what people want to hear.
I think the biggest thing too is that we don't have a crisis right now. but a crisis lurks just outside the doorway. And that if that happens, then, you know, the public's going to look to all of us as to how are you going to solve this problem in short order. And that's where I think the biggest selling point to the public is that we want to avert the crisis, and we have an on-ramp to that at this point in time.
But if you look at the numbers, say, from Stewart's ambulance, and they're not leaving us right away, but the increase, the 8% or so increase each year for their service is going to get, it's going out of sight as some of these numbers are showing us. And that's what makes sense to start this now. But again, my big concern is filling those positions.
And I think it bears saying, too, that none of this is designed or intended to denigrate Stewart's or anybody who works for Stewart's. They've been a terrific partner for fire rescue and for the town for, 15 years now. And they're obviously working with us to be able to do this in a transitional way. So, you know, as the program develops, we have some backup.
Because you'll see in the report that we have up in the cloud that also even the New Hampshire Insurance Commissioner has said that he's not going to back the private ambulance services, that they're on their own. So what Stewart's, along with the others, are looking at is where's the money to be made now. It's in interfacility transfers, and it's not in the 911 service. That's why they want to get out of it. So they're being kind enough to give us that on-ramp over the 2 years to help us out as we ramp up. And I think that speaks volumes about, you know, the partnership that they have with us in the town as far as getting this off the ground.
Well, and I think that that's going to help in this situation of hiring people. It's going to give you 2, even 3 years to get that number of people on board. And some of them are going to come, as it says in the report, with training, and quite a few of them without. So now you got to look for where you're going to train them.
Mm-hmm.
And what's it going to cost to train them? I think some of those numbers are in here, but where? And as you know, Tom, in some cases, there aren't a lot of places to send people to learn certain things. So, you know, that's my concerns anyway.
Brad, do you have any comments?
Yeah, basically I agree with what everything there that Dave said here. I want to first start out by saying I think this is an excellent report you folks put together here. I know this is the abridged version that we're looking at right now. I think the people that this committee is made up of, we've got, Casey here is our, finance person here. We've got the 2 Bobs from the budget committee on it too and stuff. And the other credentials that you guys all bring in from the EMT, fire-based service history and your backgrounds and stuff was just a tremendous amount of insight there for this committee. I do agree that we do need to move forward with this. We've talked about this for a couple of years now. Last year's vote, the town meeting, sent us, more into this direction. It's going to be costly the first couple of years here with a mix going on with Stewart's and getting established at the same time. Then when you look at the numbers there, once you get into 2027 and beyond, when you start seeing some of the cost to operate, the projected cost to operate being under what the private service would be charging at that point, plus we're going to be getting an offset with some revenues coming in from the services. Will we ever be totally solvent on that? I would probably doubt it, because we're at the mercy of the insurance companies on a lot of that stuff. So I think I'd go into this with the understanding that this is going to be supported by the taxpayer to some level, moving forward, for years and years to come here. I think it's a great report. You guys did a tremendous job with this, and I don't want to take a lot of time up, reiterating what Dave already said, so it was very nicely done.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I would like to also thank you for putting this together. One of the things that makes sense to me, I went back and looked at the chief's and Jim's report, and it was saying the same thing. We get MRI coming in, looking at it a little different, but the same thing, and now we have your committee to back it up. I think that's good data for the public to say, this is the way to go, that we have all the documentation and we've taken the time to look at it. I'm not so worried about not being able to hire enough people. If we get to a certain point and we only can hire a certain number, we'll make adjustments. It wouldn't stop me from going forward with this. And we may have to make adjustments if we can't get the staff and stuff. The interesting thing between your report and MRI put more emphasis on getting the equipment and then writing a grant for the personnel, where yours is more get some equipment, get some personnel, get another piece of equipment, and get some, hire the rest of the personnel. I think I like that the best, kind of phasing it in. It fits into being able to get people well-trained and up and running to get the program going. So I think that makes the most amount of sense. The town always has wanted to be safe. The town has always wanted the highest ambulance service. We've always paid the most. And so I think this is the same as that we turn around and we do the best plan to put the best service in place here. I agree. I think we're very lucky to have had stewards that have supported us through this. I think we need to get these reports out, and we're going to need to educate the public on exactly what we have here. So, and Brian, did you want to say something else?
And I'll be quick again. My gut feeling, and I think it kind of permeated through the ad hoc committee, was that Stewart's wants us to succeed. And I think Dave is right that staffing, and we talked about this, is going to be a challenge. But I believe they're going to stay with us and support us. If we get
That's what I think.
70% of the way there, they're not pulling the plug on us. So maybe our 2 years turns into 2.5 years. They're not going to leave us high and dry.
I don't think so either, Brian.
They want us to succeed because they don't want to do this service anymore. And they're going to support us to help us get to that end. So I agree with you, Dave. The staffing is going to be hard, but I think they have our backs.
Is there any other questions or comments you want to make? We as a board, okay, go ahead.
One other thing I was going to mention is, we talked about attracting the staff to staff this with. Another important piece of that's going to be to retain them afterwards, too. Mm-hmm. I mean, if we put a lot of money into the training and everything like that, whether it's somehow there's some kind of a commitment for a term to stay so that they don't, jump ship or go to another town or something like that, because there is going to be a lot of competition out there for this talent level that we're looking to attract here. So I just want to put that out there. I think retention is also going to be a very important aspect of this.
So does the board want to set a direction here? The next thing we have is warrant articles, and I think this is going to add to that list. So I think we do need to decide which way we would like to go. We have MRIs that want to have us buy 2 ambulances right away, and I'm not quite sure, Chief, how long will it take us to get an ambulance? If we purchase get approval for an ambulance and purchase next year, isn't going to be here on time, right?
Well, the way this is laid out right now would be the first ambulance we purchased would be a used one, so that would be fairly quick. But if and when we place an order for a new ambulance, we're looking at 24 months or possibly longer. We have had long conversations with stewards. There is the possibility of, because the size of their company, they are continually buying ambulances. There's a possibility of us sliding into one of their manufacturing positions to speed up the turnaround. The question that we haven't yet resolved, and we're talking to Justin Van Etten from Stewart's, and he's going to bring on some of his staff to kind of flesh this out, is can we change the spec of the vehicle enough to meet our needs and maintain that quicker turnaround time? We don't know the answer to that today, but it's being discussed. If that's the case, that would conceivably bring the turnaround time down significantly.
Well, I guess that's the question, because the way this is laid out, and it's nice that you have your second ambulance in 2026, but if it's going to take us 18 months, 2 years, the reality, it would need to be a 2025, more like what MRI was saying, you need to get your equipment. If we, in March of 2026, get approval for an ambulance, it doesn't seem that we'll have it on in enough time to do it.
The quote that's included in all this and is in our CIP includes a loaner at the time of the signing of the contract, should we purchase a new one. So we would have a second ambulance. It wouldn't be the brand new one right away.
So if we got approval in March of 2026, that we could, people you're talking to now
Correct.
would give us a loaner until
delivery of the
So
actual.
we feel comfortable that we don't have to deal with that this coming year. I'm just.
Again, I think I'm comfortable with what we've laid out under those conditions. Again, that vendor and others have said it verbally, but the quote includes in writing that they would provide us with a loaner and an allowance for upfit to make it licensable, if that's a word, relatively quickly, because there are state requirements for marking and so forth of an ambulance, and obviously a loaner would be a used vehicle that we would have to have some work done to, which they would do on our behalf. We would be in a position then, once it's delivered, to get it licensed and by the state and ready to respond.
So you're telling me in the 2026, we're going to also have to have some money for the upfit of the loaner ambulance?
The quote includes money for the upfit. It's minimal, but it is in there, and that the package includes the equipment that we would need to outfit it and so forth.
So we would have the two squads. The brand new one wouldn't be here yet, but we would have the two squads.
Okay, that's what I just want to make sure that we had, because that's one of the difference between MRI and your report is the purchasing of the equipment.
The MRI report, and I believe me, this isn't meant as a criticism, it's just something that we brought up, and I had a conversation with them about it once we received that, was they show, like you said, a lot of the capital costs in 2025, but then they have us buying those ambulances and essentially parking them, at least one of them, for a year.
Yeah.
That's why we kind of spread it out a little more so that, again, more of a transitional period. Our budget estimate includes getting people on board and getting them to the point where we can do this. The MRI report contemplates the EMS deputy chief and a daytime firefighter for a period of time. I see that as a struggle to fill a daytime position, because that's not a normal fire service shift, and a lot of people don't find that attractive. Mm-hmm. And their numbers don't include, okay, if we're going to run the second ambulance daytimes using primarily the deputy chief and this daytime firefighter, what happens when one has a day off? Mm-hmm. I think I like our plan, if only because it kind of builds on itself and gets us to where we need to be.
I do. I like your plan too,
Yeah.
but I was looking at that capital cost and wanting to make sure that we are, we
And I think
only
we tried
need to put
present
one
you
this
with the
year.
worst
the next-
case we could come up with, frankly, in terms of cost. Obviously, as time goes by, there'll be escalators built into some of this, but Aid to Firefighters Grant Program, a federal program, opened last week, closes at the end of December. We're in the process of writing a grant that, if successful, would pay 90% of the new ambulance and the equipment on it.
Mm-hmm.
Can't make a promise,
Yep,
but we're going to pursue it.
Yeah, yeah.
And if we look at that program with this due date of the 20th of December, with the announcements, it's a rolling program over the course of spring and summer of next year. And then should we be successful, there's a performance period. It lines right up with purchasing the new rig in early 2026.
Excuse me, Linda. Tom, is the fire department going to be in need of assistance in writing grants for the next 2 years for this project? We're talking 2 ambulance, 7 firefighters with your director. Is it going to be too heavy of a lift for you guys?
At this point, I'll say no. I don't want to say we won't ask for assistance. Well, we've had a conversation, and Jim and I have to work out some of the details about using MRI to review our application, because they've written these things before. They wouldn't write it, but they could review it and make suggestions before we hit send. We just have to work through how that would look on paper. I would assume going forward, there's a separate but similar program called the SAFER program, that is, again, a federal program that is for staffing. Once that gets a little bit closer to that time frame for submittal opening, we'll get more guidance from the feds on what we're going to need to do and so forth. Presumably in sometime in early 2025, that program will reopen, and we will obviously pursue whatever makes sense in terms of the program. That is an ongoing federal program that funds, we'd make the case for the level of staffing. It would fund their base pay and some other things for a period of 3 years. Doesn't necessarily cover everything. It wouldn't necessarily buy turnout gear and so forth, but obviously base pay is a huge chunk of what the staffing cost is to this program. Obviously, we will pursue all of that and any others we can find. As we do, we'll work with the town manager to determine whether we would need to bring in some sort of paid assistance or just literally another set of eyeballs to review things before we send them.
Anybody else have any questions, concerns? Okay, board, we're going to need to decide tonight on a direction here.
Well, looking through our packet, I noticed that we're going to be discussing warrant articles soon. One of the warrant articles we're going to be discussing is an ambulance.
Yeah, but we also have staffing,
Yeah.
which is in there. That's a piece.
This is a piece. So
Yes.
we have a piece here, I'm saying already.
But I'm saying, which way do you want to go, and do you want to do one or the other? We should set that direction. If we are, we're going to need to come up with $816,222, and how do we want to do that? Do we want to write another warrant article? If that's the direction we're going, then we, as a board tonight, should decide to go forward. And then we can work out how we want to, whether we want to try to put it in the budget, or whether we want to do another warrant article for staffing and the ambulance, or do we want to put the whole package together? I need the board to decide that's the direction it wants to go.
So just one quick statement. So the used ambulance is contemplated in here. So the delta between the used ambulance and their proposal is $522,000 and some change. The one other thing that I would just note to keep in the back of your minds, when we came forward with the original proposal a year ago, we contemplated buying the 2 ambulances under a lease purchase rather than upfront cash, which there could be some benefits in spreading that out, especially if the chief is telling us it's 18 months to delivery, because if we do I believe they call it a leases in the rear option, we don't begin paying on that lease until the vehicle arrives, which does give him the ability to capture the time frame going forward, and it puts it all into a singular package under a singular warrant article for the capital cost, and then probably a singular warrant article for the staffing. Just food for thought. I know there's a lot for you to absorb tonight, but I just wanted to throw that out there.
And are we in agreement we want to go with the ad hoc committee's model? Or I am. Dave?
Yeah.
Are you for that? Paul? Brian? Okay, so how we divide it up, we'll have to figure out. We haven't even looked at that.
I like Jim's idea.
Okay. So, when we get to the warrant articles, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
A great help to us who weren't on the committee.
As a referral, if the public starts asking questions, we put a lot of information up into that cloud because there's no way we could print it all. So that could be a referral source if there's questions there, because this is a minimal packet, like I said.
So I will work with Amy tomorrow to get the ambulance evaluation website upgraded, and I'll reach out to you, Chief, for getting those documents there. And all I can say is I don't think this committee should disband. I think you guys need to continue to sell the program just like you did tonight to Rotary, Chamber, every other entity out there. It's a big project.
And to be at our meetings when we hold public hearings and stuff, because they're going to have questions, and you have far better knowledge than I do. Some of these people may, but having somebody from the community and been a doctor, I think it's important for all of you to be there.
We're just going to take 1 week off, okay?
No.
It's been a long road to hoe.
Also, in the meantime, if you come up with any questions, please call me or call the chief, and he'll get a hold of me.
Okay.
I'm always available.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you to the Bobs and the audience.
Thanks, Chief.
All right. That was the easy part. Here comes the hard part.
What's the hard part? Oh,
The number of warrant
paying for it.
No, the number of warrant articles, where we are before we even get to that. Okay, Jim, how would you like to go through the warrant?
So warrant articles. You have in front of you a package of warrant articles. What I really want you to focus on is the spreadsheet.
Yes, that's pretty depressing.
Yeah, it is.
It's handy, but depressing.
Yeah, depressing's a good word. It's scary. There's a lot here. So,
Casey, you have extra spreadsheets?
What do you mean?
She handed them out. I got.
I only have mine. Do you need it?
We got.
You know, I must have thrown mine away.
first page behind the memo.
No, I just have what was printed out.
I may have an extra one extra one, but I don't have two, I don't think.
Yep.
You'll have to put up with a few of my scribbles on
Look
it.
on. Oh, do I have to share with? Oh,
Here, I have one extra. I've got some scribbles on it.
thank you.
You get one? Are you guys all set?
We're good.
Do you need another one, Paul?
No, I'm all set.
I do have another one.
Oh, I'll take it then.
Okay, so just to give a little bit of history here, 2021, we approved $2,022,000 in warrant articles. 22, we approved $2.2 million in warrant articles. 2023, we approved $1.992 in warrant articles. And these are cash. 2024, we approved $2.516 in warrant articles, and tonight, before any action has taken place, we're sitting at $4,100,000 in warrant articles. Now, one thing that I would like to say about that is if you look at the line 23, the sewer pump station, right now those are considered as cash warrant articles in the amount of $750,000. We are hopeful that we're going to be able to secure additional state revolving loan funds and be able to tie this into our existing loans so that it's not a cash impact going forward until it would roll into debt service.
Jim, that's one I want to talk about because I believe that it's not pump stations. I think it's only Mill Street.
You are correct. It's only Mill Street, and it should also read 900,000 based on the report
Correct.
Steve Randall gave.
That was my other thing. Yep, those are mine too.
That is one thing that I want you to pay attention to right off the bat. Short of that, this is based off of CIP. So I'll go down through the items that show to be funded. We are looking at the replacement of a highway truck HD7 in the amount of $275,000, which would be part of the capital reserve appropriation. We're looking at a replacement of HD9, $100,000, which would be a part of the capital reserves appropriation. We are looking at $900,000 for roads in general cash, from the general fund cash, excuse me. We are looking at South Main Street complete engineering to finish that project, general fund cash, $300,000. River Street, this would be a hybrid complete streets project with the water department for a total of $350,000 with $250 general fund and $200,000 under general fund, $150 from the water department. Conceptual study for the community center, that is an existing capital reserve fund that we believe we may be able to use. However, we're getting interpretation on the Geezer Rich Fund, whether or not we will be able to use that or not. There's a possibility we may not. Library parking improvements, $160,000. We have done the engineering. We've got an estimated cost from the engineer on that. Libby Museum restoration, this would be $350,000 from the existing capital reserve and Schroth fund, so I don't think that needs to be a warrant article going forward unless we go beyond that $350,000. Pressure relief valve vault, South Main Street water tower, $100,000, that would be a water fund. Water treatment plant upgrades, $100,000, water fund. Melanie Keniston Island reconstruction, $525,000 from the electric fund. Armory interior ceiling, $100,000 from the electric fund. South Main sewer construction, this would be a bond, and this would be a total of $4.7 million. Small sewer pump station evaluation. This is all of our other pump stations to have them evaluated. That would be general fund cash, $100,000. Other warrant articles that we see coming in front of us, discussion about an used ambulance, $294,000, but we just had a discussion about that, and we need to take that under further consideration. Body cameras for the police, $196,000. There is most likely a 50% grant available for this, but we have to gross appropriate. Replacement of police vehicles, $138,000. I believe that's for 3 vehicles, and they are looking at a lease purchase for those vehicles. We have an ASME contract and a police contract, which we're currently negotiating. We have a municipal reevaluation under general fund in the amount of $230,000, excuse me. We do have some capital reserve funds that we'd like to discontinue. Sewer pump stations, we just talked about that. And then to get into the capital reserve funds. Public Works, Vehicles and Equipment, $280,000, and that is the two items, HD7 and HD9, which I spoke.
You said 280.
I'm sorry, 380, which I spoke to earlier. Building Maintenance Capital Reserve, General Fund, $50,000. Water Resources, Non-Capital Reserve Fund, $50,000. Abenaki Ski Area Capital Reserve, $25,000. Tree Removal Expendable Trust, $25,000. Wastewater Treatment Plant, General Fund, $175,000. Sidewalk Capital Reserve Fund, $50,000. Establish Expendable Trust for Technology, $25,000. Establish a Municipal Reevaluation Expendable Trust, $50,000. And establish a Public Safety Fund, Public Safety Building Expendable Trust, and we would anticipate utilizing the monies received from interest to populate this particular fund. So that's the total. The total numbers across the board is a total of $10,610,000. I guess what I'd like to hear from the board is there is an awful lot here. Do you have a goal in mind that you would like to hit, that you'd like me to go back to the drawing board and do some work to hit a goal that you guys have in mind? Or would you like to take tackle that for the next meeting? You let me know, but there is an awful lot here. I know that a lot of these general fund projects are going to not make the cut, and I think I've prepared department heads for some of that.
Linda.
I won't, just a second, I want to make a comment. I definitely would like the board to do this, because I think the public needs to hear us struggle with what we keep in and what we take out, because to me, this is a huge number, and there are a lot of things here that we all know we need, and we're going to have to make the hard decisions, and I think the board should do it. Brian?
This is a very difficult question. The Libby has been closed for 6 months. It's going to be closed indefinitely until we do repairs on it. When are we going to put together a capital reserve fund that actually has the capacity to do that, say, for $2 million to start? Because $300,000 isn't going to scratch the plaster off the inside walls.
Brian, those are the decisions we're going to have to struggle with on exactly what we do here. Do we do that? Do we have the money to do that, and we don't do as much road, or we don't buy trucks? I mean,
so we're going to
if I had all the money,
yep.
Absolutely.
So we're going to have some tough conversations.
Absolutely.
with the trust division of the charitable trust division for the Attorney General, and find out how long they're going to let us keep the museum closed.
Well, I think we just are going to work with the Preservation Alliance. I think we're going to have to do some emergency repairs. We don't have any figures on that. We got a report saying what needs to be done. I don't have a figure on what it is even going to look like. So I think those are part of the hard decisions. We're going to need some of those pricings before we can even have that kind of conversation. Paul?
I'm kind of, I agree that we need to thrash. There's some things in here that I just don't understand, and we need to do that. But I agree with Brian, and we're not going to solve it tonight. But I think the question we have to ask ourselves is, and we've reminded ourselves of how many studies we've done. We know how much it was going to cost us to refit the Libby a couple of years ago, so we have that number. We know that the Turner report, which we'll review shortly, and I won't comment until we review it, but there's something to be said about that report. The Libby's been closed for 6 months. We are now forecasting it's going to be closed through the year of 2025. And if we find that we need to do something, we don't have enough money to do it, the Libby will be closed until a minimum of the first half, potentially, maybe even later, of 2026. It means that the Libby is offline for close to 2 years. I don't say that's right, I don't say that's wrong, but as we thrash, we need to ask ourselves, is that something we want to do or not? And if we don't want to do it, that's fine. The Libby will stay where it is. So I support what Brian's saying. That's a very valid question that has to get teed up and answered. And now to your point, Linda, in the context of, do you want to do that? Or do you want a new highway or a new road? It's kind of pairwise analysis that you have to decide, because this number is eye-popping. It's a big nut. And mixing it up with bonds and other things, it still turns out that it's a big number. But I think we have to thrash on it.
Yeah, whether we do a bond or whether we do a lease agreement, it's still going to carry on year after year.
It's money.
We haven't gotten out from underneath it. And that's why,
it's money.
If it wasn't, we'll have to see what it'll cost to do some work on the Libby. I look at some of these capital reserve accounts. We could just not put any money in them this year. That would take a hunk out. That's $700,000. So now where do we go? But we all have to kind of think about that.
Linda, is your notion here that we go one for one through these things and kind of debate the wording, the cost, the timeliness?
I think we have to do the cost. Right. No point filling with the wording when we may kick it out. And I wonder whether we have a meeting just to do that.
I'd like to do that.
I don't think at this time of night.
I'd like to do that.
No.
Jim and I talked about maybe December 11th, the Wednesday in between your two.
You don't want to do it the Wednesday before Thanksgiving?
Pass. Denied.
Okay.
I can comfortably say I won't be here.
All right.
Absent. Let's see.
Some of us do have two budget committee
I'm
meetings
just
that
kidding
week.
you. I'm not going to be, well, I'm going to be here, but I'm going to be cooking a turkey.
December 11th?
I don't mind doing a day meeting too. I don't mind a 2 o'clock meeting if anybody else can make it happen.
Can I just ask, do you expect the department heads to be here to defend them, or is this just the board thrashing it, Paul's words?
Board? What do you want to do?
I see we get them all in here. Well, Jim, let me ask you.
I think they have to be here.
It's you call that.
Yeah, no, they have more of the subject matter expertise on these projects than what I do. I can speak to all of them, but not to the level that the department heads can. So I think they need to be here.
I don't want you to be the expert manager. I'm glad you're going to have your team here, because I think they need to explain what they want and why. I completely support that.
Or there's just another option, potentially 2 shorter meetings instead of 1 long laborious meeting. And we decide if the board whittles it a little bit, there may be department heads that don't need to come because we don't affect them in a way that they are concerned about. And then maybe only half the department heads have to come, and we talk about the real nitty-gritty tough things that happen. It's just a suggestion. I don't care which way it goes.
If I look at this, and we're looking at needing to pull out $2 million to get down to anywhere near where we were last year, that's a lot of cutting. And so I'm with Jim. I think you have to have the department heads. We were going to have to take some from here and some from there, and
I'm okay with December 11th, one at a time.
And I'm thinking too, if we do it, during the daytime, it makes it easier on the department heads. They're already in here. Instead of making them come out on an evening too, if we're available to come in as a group and sit down for a couple hours and go through these.
I'm okay with the day as long as we can get the television to tape it so that people who work have the opportunity to see
Right.
what we're doing. That's
This is,
my,
yeah, I agree. This is important because we're talking
Yeah.
about money.
yeah, that's the only
Big
problem
money.
with the daytime, but it definitely would be, well, unless they have jobs they really need to do.
So you're thinking the 11th?
I'm fine with the 11th.
I'll make it work.
Jim will make it work? Pencils down.
Okay.
Do we have a time?
It's going to,
You pick.
Depends on cable, is I think their consensus.
Pardon? Pardon?
Timothy?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
You can do
Does
it.
it make any difference if it was in the day or?
No.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Community
Do you like
TV 's
it better in the day? Well, we're rolling on the day, I think.
Community TV's all set. Jim's going to make it work. You'll pick the time. Can you-
Do we want to do it at 1 o'clock on the 11th?
1 o'clock's good.
I do have,
You have something?
I have something from 2 to 4 on the 11th. I could possibly change it, but
Well, let's, how about start at 9?
9.
9 a.m.
We can,
I have a dentist appointment at 11, so I'll have to leave.
well, it's all right.
Anybody
What
anybody
time?
getting their tires rotated
You-
on that day? Just raise your
You're
hand.
done by 4?
yeah, I could probably work around that schedule. So we could, if it comes down to 1 o'clock for for the meeting, I'll make it work.
Is 3 hours long enough?
I think 3 hours is too long. I think
It's too long.
We would no longer be effective.
Yeah, so let's do 8 in the morning so that Dave can get to the
Yeah.
dentist afterwards and we can all go on with our day.
I can make that work if it works for you.
Getting a teeth cleaning day? You getting
Tim, 8 o'clock? Okay, so we're now saying 8 o'clock
Don't
on
wake me up on
December
your way out.
11th. And then we have to be done in time for Dave to get to the dentist appointment.
Oh, we can deliver them.
And I'll bring pastry so Dave can have his phones filled.
Yep.
Yes, right up here. Yep. Okay.
Okay. So I think that, I mean, that's a summary of the warrant articles. I think December, that's a good time to beat this thing up. And, I think we try to keep it inside of 2 hours.
On the, do we have a large meeting on, or a lot of things on December 4th? You don't remember, that's okay, you just got back from vacation.
Yeah.
Didn't you bump a lot off of this one for that?
I thought we did, I thought that the 4th, there wasn't going to be a whole lot of extra time on the 4th. Okay,
December 11th at 8 a.m. Oh,
what? Don't you dare. Yeah, that's what we all, I got to remember to put that in. AM, 12, 11. Okay, next item on the agenda is the public forum. I thought it went very well. I would like us to see if we can keep these intersections up here in the town hall and maybe set some times that we invite people to come up and look at them. I don't think all of us have to be here, but to see if there are some times that we can say, here's a good time to come look at these.
Okay, I've just got to get confirmed the date for the floor waxing.
Okay?
And we will be getting some painting done around the lower perimeter, but he should be able to work around those for painting. I should get those dates tomorrow.
Okay, if you get those dates, and then we can set, if we all agree, we might do 2 or 3 of them, and one of us or 2 of us will be here when that happens. Does that work for everybody? Okay.
In the interim, when they're being pulled out of here, can they be set downstairs in hall locations or something so that people just coming through the town hall?
It's going to be tough, as tight as those hallways are, to be able to put them there.
The only other place I thought was whether we could take them to the library in that big room. It's used quite a bit.
It is
But
used.
whether there's, what? Bradley room? The Bradley rooms, whether we could get them up maybe on the wall or somewhere, because a lot of people go into the library.
I'll have a chat with Allison.
You'll have a chat with Allison. Also, I just did some draft warrant articles, and this is just trying to figure out how you might possibly word. I don't care if we use any of this, but trying to figure out how do we word a warrant article so somebody understands what we're talking about and put in some of the important information on each one of those. And so it was just my attempt. It's here for each of us to look at. I expect people to change it, maybe word things differently, but I just wanted to give you something to start thinking about on how we may want to present a warrant article and whether we definitely do want to present a warrant article. And I guess that's the next decision on this board. Are we in agreement that we all want to put warrant articles out? Brad?
I have a question. If we put warrant articles out, because it was mentioned at the forum there, somebody asked if they're going to be ranking type warrant articles or if they're going to be decision-making articles from the vote. My question being, this isn't going to happen until March, and I have concerns about the DOT waiting for that period of time for a decision to come from us for this, which way we're going to go with the project and stuff here. So, because we've been working on this for a number of years now, it's been, we put a lot of information out to all the townspeople, and I'm kind of of mind it's almost going to be time to, make a decision on what we want to do or what we want to recommend to the state, just because of how much time we've already spent on it. I don't know if we've heard from, if Jim can answer or not, if we've heard anything back from DOT on any of the information we've sent to them. I know Barry sent information down there about the pole location there and his idea of it. We've talked to them about 1-lane versus 2-lane access and stuff there. And I'm just curious if we've had any feedback on that yet or anything from...
Steve?
Steve? That's called an Olay.
Steve Randall, Public Works. I spent 3 hours with DOT this afternoon. Very informative, very good. Let's start with some of the simpler things. They took all the questions we had from 2 meetings ago, one-way, two-way, various stuff, and they broke it down similar to this. So I've got the Cliff Notes version that I wrote down, and I'll run through it that way.
Okay.
Basically, this whole corridor is about 8,000 feet. So the construction duration right now is looking at between 3 and 3.5 years from start to finish, to how they've done this. So the two-way traffic, original concept, 2 ways all the way. To maintain the traffic, the utility pole relocation, the stormwater basins, the impact on the trees was roughly 70 trees would have to go. And 70 poles would have to be relocated. The new concept that they came up with, which was basically a hybrid, so there's some two-way traffic by the schools, by Kingswood and by Brewster, because it's a wider corridor there, and they could get away with 2-lane traffic. And then the remaining of the corridor would get split into 7 segments, which is about 5,600 feet, and work at it like 1,000 to 1,100 lineal feet at a time, if that makes sense. And they would do it in a phasing system. So in the spring, they would work, different sections. The summer, they would do, where they were going to keep 2-lane traffic, they could do it in the summertime. At the schools, when the schools are, Kingswood is out, this one is slower, they could do 2-lane traffic, middle of summertime, keep traffic flowing. Fall, spring, go down to single-lane traffic by the library, by the golf course, Morrissey's up through that section, down on the lower end by Pleasant Valley Road. Crescent Lake Ave,
any of the BMPs that are off that side. That moved the impact down to 41 trees and 36 poles. Now, I'd like to throw a caveat on the trees. So the tree removal was based on the Bartlett study, but that was done, this concept of trees when they started this was done 4 years ago. And as a lot of people have known, we've actually taken down a fair amount of trees in the last couple of years since we've been here, of the dead and the dying trees. So he is going to give me a copy of the tag numbers that they had in their thing. We will go out and try to get a better count on the trees, how many actually still need to come out. I will say they had roughly 18 to 20 of the trees from Kingswood to that way. So that area where Pleasant Valley Road is, to rearrange that and do that BMP. And that's actually all pretty smaller trees versus the quarter down here where we have the bigger, older trees that I think most people want to make sure that we don't disturb. So that was the biggest takeaway of that stuff from today. That and what DOT is looking for, to Brad's point, is a letter of support from the town that says we back this project. Right now they don't have that. So it is a very much, it's there, but they're looking for backing. So back in June, I believe it was June or July when they came, and you folks agreed to do, to give them the authorization to do the full scope.
Correct.
What they're hoping with that is a letter of support that says the quarter project we want to do. You can put into it caveats as far as the intersections. From DOT's perspective, they thought a lot of these were already negated. So there was a letter, I believe, from 2018 that said no signals. So they have taken that kind of like off the list. In their mind, it was roundabout, no roundabout. So it's that minimum build or the roundabout. That's kind of where they were assumed we were headed. So it's basically the step right now is, to Brad's point, to make sure that everything can keep going, is a letter of support from the town that says we want this project to happen. We would like to have warrant articles to do the intersections based on whatever it is that you folks decide. But, and again, I said this the other night, I'd like to stress the importance of that corridor and what it is actually going to give us, which is the water quality, the basins, the sidewalks. That is the biggest part of this project, not really the intersections. And I know the intersections get the publicity, but it's really the corridor.
Can you tell me I'm going to get 3 basins? When I talked to them, we were trying to deal with it, and they said whatever we could afford, and it might only be one.
What town's getting basins?
The answer to that question, Linda, is because the basins in the water is based off of the square footage of disturbance that they're putting in. There needs to be 3 basins have to go in. That is what came out of today as well. 3 basins will need to go in. So as we are looking at the scope of this project and the money that DOT has, you know, I'm not going to officially speak for them, but without a letter of support, they also aren't going to look for any more money. So it is what it is. And the longer this drags on, the longer it takes, the less the money is going to be there because it's going to cost more. Right now, if we were to sign, seal, and deliver it today, it's 4 years before they break ground. So everything that goes, because they need to do public hearings, and then they have to go to Government Council, and then they have more hearings. So, and then they have the 2-year design window after all of that. So they're 4 years from whenever.
I thought they held 2 or 3 of those public hearings.
Not on their end. They have public hearings here, but they have their stuff, and they have not scheduled any of those because they can't schedule them yet.
So this is what I've said from the beginning, that we have time to put the warrant articles for the intersections, but we need to just tell them that we want to do this project. And The other thing we have to do is make sure that when we explain it, we don't use the word mini-build anymore, because mini-build is a bogus statement. It really is.
That's what they have up there. We can worry about wording it another
Verbiage is
time.
verbiage. Personally, my opinion, take it for what it's worth. Roundabout, no roundabout. And then
And let the public know that the corridor itself, the 8,000 feet, is going to be built the same way. I've said this 10 times now. It's
We all
going
have
to be
said
built the
that.
same way, no matter what happens at the
Correct.
intersections.
Yep,
And so let's get a letter to the state tomorrow and tell them we're willing to do the project.
We need to talk about it as a board, but we have always talked about the corridor being the same. We've made that decision. That's not something new.
That was never in question.
No, there wasn't.
thing that
And
was
we
in question-
defined that very clearly.
Yeah, the only thing that was in question was, the lanes of traffic during the construction process. But
Yes,
the
and-
corridor was never in question. The surprise on the trees, that's a big oops, but
Trees and poles.
trees and poles.
That's,
But what was to be done in the corridor was never in question.
And they have listened to that feedback back from what I took from you guys from the first time we did this with the matrix, sent it to them. And that's when they revised this hybrid concept. And I actually have plans with me, how they did it. The road plans that said, this section here
Yep,
alternating. And it is very well done, as everything that those guys do. I mean,
And you can even see out here, at times, they're able to move the cars and move us over into where the parking lanes are, and we run with two
Correct.
lanes. So I think people can understand that concept. Yep.
So I'm kind of with Brian, I'm a little confused. So there's an urgency on the part of the state to hear from us that says we want to go forward with the project.
yes.
We are all in agreement that there's no disagreement that the corridor, subject to making the traffic, be more accommodative to people's needs, the corridor hasn't changed.
Correct.
So we could write them a letter, to Brian's point, in the next whatever period of time that says, we like that idea, just go forward with that.
And again, you put in the caveats as far as warrant time for intersections.
Well, hang on, I'm just trying to walk the dog here. So we got that piece done. And as you've said, this roundabout, no roundabout, we could say, we haven't figured out the roundabout, no roundabout yet. We'll get back to you March, whenever we get done voting on it, or getting advice on it, or whatever the structure is of this warrant. Are we okay if we did that?
Yes. Include that in the letter.
So I'm not sure anything has changed from the last time we spoke about the urgency to get something in front of the state.
It's just getting it to them.
Literally licking the envelope and kind of sending it off.
Yes.
Got it.
They want
Okay.
that.
All right. Okay. All right.
I think one of the big challenges that we ran into was the original conversation about the poles.
Yes.
And the tree removal, which kind of put the
That was a big
draft
issue.
letter on pause.
That was a big
To
issue.
which we had a conversation with Mr. Ayotte, with some email correspondence, and he was aggravated, I guess is the best way I can phrase it. But I think we've gotten to a point now, based on the work that you guys have done, that we can put the letter together and say, with the caveats of A and B.
Yeah, and there was the other surprise of the sidewalks. Because at one time, we thought that we were going to be responsible for...
That was a long time
Well,
ago.
that was the first time that we had a hiccup, and then the second time we had a hiccup was...
They told us that at one
With
of
the
the
polls.
first public hearing, I asked that
White line to
question.
white line, all that
And
stuff.
and they clarified that the first time. We haven't talked about that for a long time. And the reality here is they're going to pay for everything. And the only thing we're going to have to pay for is the moving of the poles. That's
the planting of trees.
And replanting of trees.
Now, again, I would
But they
like
may
to,
replant some of them.
to throw the caveat into all of that is still based on money. As everybody said before, this started at the Alton line and has now come up. So in 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, if it's a 3.5-year build, we're looking at, 7 years from now, this could be smaller.
Yeah, and for a while, we were going out,
Right.
we did
And
this one before.
If it shrinks, it could very well shrink. This isn't coming from them, this is just me. It could very well shrink out of the intersections, and we still get the quarter, you know?
I don't think anybody'd be real upset about that.
Exactly.
That would be fine by me.
I don't think there'll be any beating of breasts and gnashing of teeth on that one.
So again, it's really the support letter so that they know that how this is going, lay out exactly what is going to happen. I would suggest putting in the letter this hybrid concept and specifically calling it that, because we have the plan set to match that has the match lines on where and how they're going to do that. And yes, there's still trees and poles that have to be moved, but there's no way around that. There is no way to not move a pole or not cut a tree on a project of this size.
Yeah, well, you can see where I was driving up and looking at where some of the telephone poles were.
You're in the middle of the sidewalk.
Yeah, right.
That's what I said last meeting, because I've been
you-
walking them back and forth.
Or they're just this side, the road side from the sidewalk, and you look and say, they're going to have to do something with that.
So Linda or Jim, how do we just get this done?
So Steve and I actually spoke before the meeting. I will put together a draft tomorrow. And I don't know if the board wants to appoint somebody to review the draft and we can get it out the door tomorrow.
Well, I wonder whether we all want to sign it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
I think we
That's
did
my
that
feeling.
back in 18, didn't we? Didn't the board all
Yeah.
sign it in 18?
Yeah, I did a letter
years,
and sent it out the door, so I would say we would want to sign it, but we can get ourselves in there, and when you have a draft, I just send the draft out to the board.
Just put it around.
We'll get
And
it
then we
taken
can-
care of tomorrow and get the draft out and work on getting it signed.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay. All righty. So
So what are we doing with this piece of paper?
this is just, we were talking about warrant articles, and so all I did is write two things. To get you guys to start thinking and maybe come up with another way to word it or do something else. It is to trigger thoughts and to see if people want to reword it. If I had done nothing, we would have sat here and said, oh, what do we want to
stop
do?
that.
So I decided to do something and take a little initiative and put it out here. So that's just for you guys to work on. I'm sure you will have plenty of things to change on that. I don't see us needing to do anything else.
And we can have it to look at and talk about on the 11th too, right?
Yeah, and reword it and play around with it and see what we want to do. That's what,
Perfect.
all right. I need a motion to go into a Libby trustees meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion by Brad, seconded by Paul to go into Libby trustees meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
All righty. Jim, do you want to go over the H.L. Turner, or does somebody else want to do?
I'll sit here and say that it came in the day that I was essentially leaving on vacation. I skimmed it. I have not had an opportunity to dive into it, and I just got back yesterday.
Okay.
So haven't looked at it.
Okay, all right, Paul, I'll let you go. You had all those questions. How about you take us through? You must have seen some of the key areas here.
Well, thank you, Linda. I did have some questions, and,
Yep.
and I put them away, so I got to go find them. So the H.L. Turner report, and I think, Jim, you did say it's up on the website, or did Amy say it's?
I'm not sure if it is yet or not.
Okay. So H.L. Turner dispatched four, I believe, structural engineers, folks, to the Libby. And they did that several weeks ago. They issued a preliminary report, which again I believe is up on the website. I'll give you the headline of this. It's going to sound a little disrespectful. No new news. The back wall of the Libby is compromised, and that's my words. Their words are that the support trusses in the building on that, what they call it, the north wall, are in very rough shape. They go on to mention, without being inflammatory, that It's probably not, it's probably a structural issue that we got to safeguard against not, going in and conducting operations in the building. That would be read between the lines for them. They went on to tell us that the standing seam roof, which is on the top of the building, it's kind of, it doesn't look like a roof. It's moved around. They went up into the rafters and discovered that there's some rafter damage, compromising of the rafters. They observed that the foundation under the building they characterize it, it's a rubble foundation. There is some concrete pillars, pilings, whatever the right words are, that the foundation needs to be, using their words, shored up. They did not speak at all about mitigating any contaminants, lead, asbestos, any of that stuff, and I'll get to that in a minute. They did observe that there was substantial mold. They took some photograph images and sent it to us in this tentative report. They did mention that there's a drainage concern. They didn't get into any details, and thank goodness they didn't, because that in and of itself, as Linda and the rest of us know, drainage is a big deal. It's a very big deal. They did do some demolition on the inside of the building, on the deck, which you'd call the floor, because one of the back corners of the building is a little bit spongy. And they did indicate that the rafters on the floor rafters, the 2x6s or whatever they are in rough shape. Okay? That's about the sum and substance of the report. I would say no new news. The back wall is bellied and it's moving. They didn't, in this report, show us any measurements of what is happening. They did give some recommendations that talk about replacing all columns around the north wall, rebuilding it. They talked about adding and replacing top and bottom sill plates. Those are the things that hold up whatever you call those things. Replace broken floor joists, replace timber beam shins, plumb the concrete piers, fix the foundation cracks, upgrade, repair the roof, add dehumidification, add air conditioning, moisture remediation, address failures of the building envelope, address drainage issues around the building. That was their kind of high-level recommendations. Jim, just before he sojourned off to Las Vegas to spend all of his hard money, sent it to us and said, please take a look. If you have any questions, send them to Randall. So I sent Steve 10 questions. And I can't find them. They're in here, but I'll tell you in summary what the questions are.
Well, maybe I can find them on my phone.
Yeah,
You sent
I just sent them to you. Oh, I just did that. The first question is, are we looking at only the back wall of the building, or are we talking about the entire building? What does Turner advise as to how the collection gets removed? Is the building no longer stable for people to work inside the structure? Is Turner suggesting that the collection or parts of it could remain in place during the renovation? Turner references that the north wall of the building did not call out the other three sides. Is it possible that the sill plates are compromised on all remaining sides of the structure? Turner references floor joists need replacement, those little things that hold up the floor. Is it possible that the entire deck of the building is compromised? No mention made of the unique structure of the building. One of the things that Libby celebrates is that this is, and I'll use a term, I might be wrong, balloon construction. Air flows up inside the building. Did I get that wrong, Dave? Is it like a balloon construction? Okay. Well, balloon construction, if you do anything in building, you're not supposed to have that. It's a fire problem. And Chief Zadi would probably tell you balloon construction is not conforming to building codes. So are we going to have to completely tear the face of the building or the inside of the building off to make the building conform to building codes? Same goes for wiring. Concerning the foundation, is Turner suggesting that the foundation repairs would require jacking of the structure? If we have to jack up a structure that's fundamentally busted, what do you think happens to the structure? That was my question. No mention made of lead paint removal. Did Turner see lead paint, or do we need to test for lead paint and asbestos? Passing reference made to stormwater management, open item. Should the town act now to ensure that the structure does not fail in the coming winter? What is Turner's advice? Those are the questions I put to Turner. Now, my understanding from Steve and from Jim is that once Turner has all of those questions, they will endeavor to answer them, get them back to us, and that'll become part of the final report, which we will put, I believe, we're going to put that up on the website.
Yes, I
We're
would think
putting all
very
that
definite.
stuff up on the website.
Yep.
So you're going to get a good hard look at the Q&Rs from, thank you, Linda, for giving me your phone. I just bought something on eBay.
That's okay.
It's all set.
I needed it anyhow.
I paid Brian for his $100. So that's the report on Turner. One other item, and I'll pass it back to Linda. I did ask at the last meeting if we had an inventory of the collection, and the answer is yes, we do. The Friends of the Libby gave us that inventory in 2020. I forgot. We have it in hard copy. We're trying to, and I've asked Amy to help us out, I'm trying to find a soft copy of that, a database, so that we can go in and say sort on what belongs to Dr. Libby and what belongs to others, so that we can have an idea of what we're dealing with. The collection, the inventory is 1,732 pages, roughly speaking, of artifacts that are down at the Libby. We just need to get clear about what belongs to the Libby estate and what belongs to others. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Brian, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, so I'm hoping that the questions that you asked would be in the $30,000 report that we get.
Me too.
I'm hoping that most of them are already there.
Yeah.
Including one thing that you glossed over. What's it going to cost to do this? I'm hoping that Turner gives us some kind of ballpark or estimate or whatever. This is what I also think that.
I don't think that's what we.
And here's something that's silly. I think this is going to be like opening a bag of popcorn, because until you open it up, you don't know if it's burnt, if it's good, and how many kernels are in the bottom. So when we start ripping walls apart from this, and Maggie Steers, when she was here, and she's from the New Hampshire Preservation Alliance, agreed, we don't know what we're going to hit when we get into this.
Not a clue.
Not a clue yet. And I don't know if Turner did enough of a forensic examination to give us that detail too, saying this is what you're going to hit when you start ripping apart.
I think even if you get a builder come in and they start taking it apart, they find things.
You might get the whoa Nelly. Whoa Nelly. Yeah.
And I still, in parlaying with Paul, I think that we should know what is Mr. Libby's and what is just stuff that was donated 5 years ago, 12 years ago, 100 years ago, 50 years ago, whatever, and find out what's valuable. Why? And everybody's like, everything's valuable. What can't be replaced? What has tenable value? What has monetary value? What has what needs to be stored in delicate situations? Because if there is highly valuable fans from a Chinese or Japanese dynasty, those probably, if they're gentle, if they're fragile and they're expensive, we're going to have to care for those differently than we are going to have to a pickerel that's mounted on a block of wood on the wall.
Linda?
So we need to get some information on this.
Linda?
Yeah.
So I also want to just let you all know, following the last time we talked about the Libby, we had this chat about the collection. I was saying, we got to insure this thing. We got to, appraise it, assay it. And Ann Blodgett texted over to me that night and gave me, she was in charge of the Wright Museum. Very, very good, seasoned person. By the way, background in the insurance industry too, which is kind of good to have. She kind of gave us some guidance. I passed it over to Jim as to how we might go about doing that. Her point to me is, don't try to assess everything as if it's in the Louvre. What you should think about doing, though, is having somebody come in and do kind of a global assessment of the things you think are important, which gets back to what Brian said, and I think we're all saying is, we got to get Dr. Libby's collection identified.
Absolutely.
And so that we can look at that and go, that's what we have to deal with. Now, that's not to suggest that the other stuff is not priceless. but we have a trust agreement with Dr. Libby. We have a trust agreement that we have to deal with. So Ann was very helpful, and I appreciate her, wherever you are out there. I appreciate her filling us in.
And we may be able to take the most valuable, delicate stuff too and house it in the library or in the Wright Museum where people could still view it, or at least it's stored where they store their other artifacts, and keep those close to our vest. And then the other artifacts can be stored in a more generic location that doesn't need to be as humidity controlled to the exact percent and temperature controlled to the exact percent and whatnot.
We ended up, when you're lending some to the Laconia Library, so and we may want to look at lending out our, the Boat Museum wanted some, and at that point, we didn't know where we were. They might take some more. So we may at some point want to take a look at that.
Let's keep a good inventory so we know where we put it all.
Got the inventory.
No. I mean,
we just have to get something.
When we loan it out, so we remember who we loaned it to.
Absolutely.
And a hats off to the Friends of the Libby for sending me that inventory. I appreciate it. It's at the library now, and somewhere in our town hall we have a copy, and somewhere there's an electronic copy. But we got the police doing an all-points bulletin trying to find it.
And how many pages was it?
Roughly 1,732.
Anybody here on this side have any comments?
Yeah, I'll just, we got this preliminary report here. A lot of my questions will probably be more forthcoming after we see the full report, building measurements, all that kind of stuff, all the details. This kind of has some good information in here of what we thought was going on there, probably worse than what we thought was going on in there, especially on that north wall. I think some of Paul's questions would be answered in the full report there. There'll be more detail on the other columns, the other walls, sills, the foundation, the concrete supports underneath there in the middle there, the whiskey barrels that are filled with concrete, the lap joints and the timbers underneath there not being supported right. There'll be a lot more detail, I think, that we'll see there, which will answer a lot of our questions right now, and that we need that information moving forward. So that's kind of what I'm waiting to see.
And I think we need to find out what we need to do to stabilize it at some point. We may have to stabilize it before we come up with a plan on how we're really going to repair it. So we do need the bigger report. Nice to have some figures if we could. Any other comments on the report?
So I think we all have a sense of wanting to move this forward. So open question to the rest of us. I've given my questions. Can we maybe have a date certain as to when anybody else who wants to generate questions gets them to Steve, so that Steve can get the cues over to Turner, we can get a final document?
I'd like to see the final document. I mean, I think your questions are fine. I don't personally.
You don't have any more?
No. I just.
So I guess, I shouldn't speak for you, but I guess, Steve, there's no more questions. Let's go for a final report. Oh, here he comes.
I thought they were working on a final report. I didn't think they were waiting.
Yeah, I sent your questions last week, so.
You sent mine in?
Yeah, I sent yours
so
in.
there's no further, so.
I figured I gave it some time. Yours came in.
Yep.
And then I sent them so that they could keep working.
Off we go.
So
cool. Thanks.
He said they're working on it and they'll get it done as soon as they can. No time frame at the moment.
Did you tell them we had a time frame in terms of warrant articles? We do have a time frame.
Well, it's either that or it's his trucks.
But, yeah, I did. And
okay.
They're going as fast as they can. So.
Well, it's important.
All right. We'll leave that one alone. Okay. The next thing on the agenda was a letter. Maggie felt that with all the documents loaded on to the website, there should be some letter from the Board of Selectmen saying that we were supported, that we had agreed to have them work with us to look at the Libby, and I just took what we had said before you know, I would say we look forward to your partnership, and I would take the schedule, the meeting, and the question marks out. Does anybody want to make any other changes, do anything to this?
Yeah, we need 5 signature lists.
Oh, no.
On the bottom.
When we're going to flip a coin and one person's going to lose.
Could I, please? I think the letter is, well, first of all, I want to thank, you know, the Heritage Commission, and they're all wonderful. And I mean that seriously. I think this, and I know you just did a cut and paste, and thank you for doing this. This letter, to me, is a little, if we're going to move the Libby forward, we need to have tasks and dates. And we're not there yet. So to transmit tasks and dates to anybody. So it would be premature to say, hey, you know, we'd really like you to do 1, 2, 3, help us do that. I would, you know, I would support what they want to do, but I don't think we're ready to send over a letter to the Heritage Commission with this kind of verbiage. I'd much rather wait until we get the final report back. We know what we're dealing with. We say to the Heritage Commission, we need you to get signed up for the following things. Can you do it? And if they say, well, we'd like to discuss that, that's fine. So I just think this is premature, and I probably wouldn't be a signature to this.
Okay, this is exactly what they came and asked us and offered us. And my understanding, I was going to go to the Heritage Commission and accept their offer, and I copied exactly what they said out of the minutes, and they would like something up on the website saying that we had agreed to work with them. I'm more than willing to do another letter, but they would like that, unless this board doesn't want to do it. Brian?
The only thing that I would see in the letter, and I like it, it's fine, is to perform tasks as the Board of Selectmen agrees necessary. So let's give them some direction as they go. We have this, and it says they're going to form a committee, they're going to work with the New Hampshire Preservation Alliance, they're going to explore and develop strategies to move. So shouldn't we, as we go through this process, if we hit something that we think they can be an asset to, we should be able to say and give them direction, can you investigate this? Can you look at this? So can we add a 6 or something that says, and perform activities that the Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen deems or sees necessary, or something to that effect?
So can I comment on it, since I was yeah. So I thought about that, but the RSA, when the Heritage Commission gets established, the RSA says that's their job, is to take task activities upon the request of the Board of Selectmen and do things. So it's just a letter reaffirming what their fundamental job is.
Right.
So you know,
except it's the only difference to me is it's the Libby Museum. And so it focuses it that this agreement or this letter says that, yes, the Heritage Committee always helps us whenever we task them with anything, but this letter says that we are focusing with them on the Libby Museum, so it makes it a little different.
And then one other thing that's missed, well, I shouldn't say missing, there's an ask, and I passed that along to, hopefully you got it, Linda, is there's an ask by the Friends of the Libby to be at the table during these conversations.
Well, what do you want to add? Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, Linda, thank you. Basically, I'm okay with the letter. There's a couple little things here where they have their 5 bullet points down there. I guess the question I have is this subcommittee going to be a subcommittee for the Board of Selectmen, or is it going to be a subcommittee for the Wolfeboro Heritage Commission?
Heritage Commission.
It'll be their subcommittee, okay.
Yes.
I thought I understood it. I thought it was going to be our subcommittee.
No, it's their subcommittee.
Okay.
They formed it. They got 3 people on it. They formed it at a meeting.
Okay, because I agree with what Paul said. I think that the Friends of Libby, should have a seat at the table there too.
Sure.
Hopefully that they would hear that and agree to that. So, but I think they're offering to do a lot of the work here, a lot of the legwork that needs to be done for this. So basically, I'm okay with the letter. That was the main question I had: is if it was our committee or if it's going to be their committee that they put together.
Their committee, and I don't recall anybody saying at that meeting when they presented this to us that they had to include a member of the Libby Museum.
No.
No.
We could suggest it to them.
I think we could suggest it to them that somebody might want to be on that, but that was not. I just took this. This is really what they said in the minutes. Is how I got this.
I can suggest it to them at our next Heritage.
I think that would be good.
Meeting.
Yeah, that would be the way to deal with it. So, what would you like to do? Are you comfortable sending it or not? What they really wanted is something with all the documents on there, letting the public know that they are going to be working on it. That's all this thing is.
And I would just like I said, maybe 6 should be to assist with any other tasks as guided by the Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen. That would be it. Just that gives us kind of the ability to say, hey, listen, we've discussed this in a meeting, or this came to our attention. Here, can we task you with doing this?
I think you take care of that. We look forward to this partnership. We're working with them. They're doing no different than what the ad hoc ambulance committee did. All right, they went out, they got all the information,
But the ad hoc ambulance committee did have specific, direct.
Right, then we'll hold up on that. You give me a sentence of the wording you want, and I'll bring it on and put it on the next Board of Selectmen's meeting. It's too late now for me to put together another sentence here for you. So you send to me what you would want. Anybody else who want changes, send me the changes, Paul, whatever you need. If you're ever going to be willing to sign it, give me that, and then I'll put all that together, and then we'll come back and look at it the next meeting, okay?
That sounds fair.
Yep.
All right?
Yep.
All righty.
Would you like a motion to come out of the Libby trustees?
Yes, I would, Brad.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion by Brad, second by Paul. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Anybody have any other business?
I hope not.
All righty. Town managers report?
I haven't been around since our last meeting, so I'm playing catch up on emails and whatnot. So if you've reached out to me, if you haven't heard from me today, you'll be hearing from me by the end of the week. The only other thing that I really had to report, Steve reported out on regarding the hearing for 28 and what he had heard from DOT. I don't have anything else.
How was your vacation?
It was good. We had a wonderful time.
Excellent.
So, I will say Lionel Richie is a surprisingly fun entertainer. I didn't think I would enjoy the show as much as I did, but
good for you.
It was good.
You deserve it.
Okay, I'll start down there with Dave. Committee reports.
I had one meeting with the Conservation Commission.
Okay. Brad.
I had one meeting with the planning board.
Okay. Paul.
Dave, we had several meetings with the union for contract negotiations.
Yeah, well, those aren't really meetings.
Okay, those are fun meetings, okay. What else have I done? So the union discussions we've had, police commission meetings, ambulance committee meetings, that's about it for now.
Brian?
So we had 2 ad hoc ambulance committee meetings, and what a great job they did tonight. And I hope that the public watched, and I hope they understand and take up Ray on contacting him if there's any questions from the board or from anybody. We had a budget committee meeting, and I went to the senior lunch, and they had their Thanksgiving dinner, and it was absolutely fantastic. All decorated, festive. It was really, really good. Linda and I went on a bike trail walk.
We did.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was a nice walk.
Yeah, and that's all I had. And I will say this though, the trail builder is a great guy. He's open, he gives lots of information, he understands what he's doing, he knows the rules and regulation, he can give us great guidance. We should have been partnered with him 3 years ago when this whole process started. I think our outcomes would have been a lot different.
Okay, I had a CIP committee reviewing, and we reviewed the process for 2024. I went to the Historical Society meeting. They were concerned about moving forward on the fire engine donation and getting that appraised. I met with a group of Russ Pond Association members, Rennie Pelletier, Dave Neal, Jeb Bradley, to review the need to dredge the north end of Russ Pond, what possible grants, and talk about the 319 grant that we have already in place, and Steve was there. I've been to 2 budget committee meetings. You heard about last night Wolfeboro. I had one of those meetings. Wolfeboro Waters reviewed the Corinthian Yacht Club's possible construction projects. They asked a number of members of Wolfeboro Water to come and meet with them, and they gave them suggestions on how to deal with stormwater runoff, and that was a nice way for Wolfeboro Waters to be in the beginning of a project. I walked the bike trails with Brian, and I had an EDC meeting, and that's all I have. Okay.
And Linda, I would just note that the appraisal for the fire engine is supposed to take place on the 25th of this month.
Fantastic. Any questions from the press?
No, so you're on.
Okay. Questions from the public? Public input.
My name's Jody Person. Just real quick, I had a couple questions on that. The mountain bike trails, the single track alliance. Does the town have an agreement to use that land in there? Or how is that set up?
We approved the Single Track Alliance to build certain trails, and we accepted some trails that had been built prior to any approval of the town.
Yeah.
In agreement, and in that agreement, they are to maintain those trails.
Okay, because, well, my son and his friends just started going up in there, and I just noticed that there's people coming from everywhere to use it, and it sounds like it. I get the feeling that maybe this time next year that's going to be all shut down because there's no structure to it there. Like the rink has structure. You can't just right now. Everybody's just going out to those trails whenever they want.
And that's
And that's a problem, and that's what's going to shut it down. And it needs to be set up like pop wheeling certain times to skate, like on the ski mountain is certain days and times of the week, and that, you know, whether the Alliance Club likes it or not, it really needs to get control of it, or it's going to be gone for the kids and everybody to use. So that was one of my suggestions, is that they might. Is it a yearly thing you do with them?
I think it's a 3-year contract.
It was 2 or 3, yeah.
Yeah, it's a couple 2 or 3 year contract. I think the only stipulation in there is opening May 1st, closing sometime, maybe it's even November 1st, and there's a time frame as to when it's supposed to be used, which I think is 9 a.m. through sunset maybe, or something
I
like that.
think we went to 9 p.m.
Yeah, we went to 9 p.m.
9
even
p.m.
though it was dark because the single track people said they use headlamps.
Okay, I just wanted to give, because my son and I were in motocross for years, and we started going to a track in Maine that was just in a pit, and then it got so big that it had to be organized and it had to have set time. It actually had to be, right now nobody's up there watching that. They might have to they really should think about structuring days and hours more and people out there and for EMS and everything. I don't know what they got going on, but it's really getting big out there. I just figured I'd mention that.
Thank you.
And I guess the second thing I wanted to talk about was with the Libby Museum, the Friends of the Libby. I sort of feel like they got a bad deal last time because I feel like they probably had the money raised. But with what happened with Pop Whalen, it just gave everybody in town a bad taste in their mouth. And I really think if the Libby's going to go forward, I'm hoping that whoever works on it, maybe just try to think about just restoring the buildings there, not an expansion, not looking different. Maybe just restore the building that you see right now. Maybe that should be restored there. And I'm going to repeat myself when I said you have a pretty good revenue with that launch. I don't know how much money comes in from the barges, roughly $3,000 per barge, right, for the launch? Where does that money go? Is that
Goes into a revolving fund, and the money can only be used to repair that launch.
to repair and maintain the launch? So now, I know I've said this before, but if you actually, everywhere on the lake, you have to charge to use the launch. If there was any way to have more parking out back of that museum, and word of mouth got out, you'd have, if you started charging for using that launch, you would have so much more revenue than you could ever do with the museum there with the front doors open. The revenue is there. So I wish you'd just really think about maybe doing something like that, talking about it, or, at least talk about it, because the revenue's there, that launch. There's a lot of revenue there that could be used for maintaining, repairing, restoring, anything like that. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public?
Clip, clip, clop.
Bobby Bedman. Back to the safe haven. I know that you shut down the box. However, I would like to propose that you accept a donation of doing a safe haven sign in the corridor between the hospital and the police department and the fire department. That is not going to infringe on our safety building in any way. I don't know if you've been paying attention to what's been happening, and if you've been watching what's going on in Texas, what's happening there, and what got voted on this month is where we're headed. And I just want to I know that we've talked about the 4,800 babies that have already been relinquished. Of that, there were 1,610 babies who were relinquished without handing the baby over. So there was no one to receive the baby, and 915 of those babies died. So between June and August of this year, there were 6 surrenders in one county in Texas since they have removed their rights for people to have reproductive health care. 13% infant death increases in Texas in homicides. So our representative, since being elected, Representative Glenn Cordelli, has already proposed an LSR to criminalize anyone taking someone under the age of 18 for reproductive health care, meaning there could be an 18-year-old with a 17-year-old girlfriend, and they go to Walgreens, and that will be criminalized. So I would like to ask that we at least do a sign in the corridor. We can either do it on our property in the first responder building, or we can put a petition for the state and have it across the street in the median area there between the hospital. So that's just the first thing. This was a long meeting. I'm sorry. I have some questions. So the skates that were donated, because they were donated here, but they said they were for GWRSD, are we going to be allowed to rent those out during public skate?
I think they are going to be over at Pop Whalen.
So we'll be able to rent those. Oh, that's great. Okay. Brian, I don't think that you need to donate to the rink for the special education children to be there. We as a town, we know, we've discussed this, that we rent out that ice time. So that ice time is already being uplifted by the property taxpayers. I think as property taxpayers, we probably can just give them that time because our citizens have already supported being able to bring in programs like that. So I just don't think you should have to donate. I think our town can donate to that. Sorry, you guys had a lot going on. The revenue for POP, the 66%, does that still include the $105,000 that Brewster paid us back after we outfitted locker rooms, or has that $105 been put to the asset where it belongs?
We generally we just don't generally answer those kinds of questions.
No, I
in
know,
public.
I know.
So
I just
if you want
point out.
that answer, I will get that for you.
Okay.
Can you submit that with an email?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yep. I know that this is not going to be very popular on some people, but we have impact fees, and on our impact fees, we have a waiver for people ages 55 and over, because they are not utilizing the school system. However, with getting our own ambulance services, I'm wondering if we instead take that waiver away, because as Chief Zadi has mentioned, as many people have mentioned, our ambulance services primarily go to Taylor, they go to the Ledges, to Christian Ridge. Those are all people over age 55. So even though they're not paying the impact fee for the schools, maybe there's just a new type of impact fee in our town that we should be knowing that older people moving in are going to be using our ambulance services more.
Will you send me an email explaining what you believe the impact
Yeah, so if you look at
fees are?
section 175-173.4, you'll get the definitions of our impact fees, which I know we've all been sort of discussing them over the schools the last couple of years due to what happened with the funding there. So we give a waiver. We will give a waiver if people ask if they're over age 55, that they don't have to pay the school portion of the impact fee. So maybe we don't give that waiver anymore?
Well, that's why you and I need to talk, because I'm not sure that we do, but I need to get clarity on what you're talking about.
Okay, and then the citizens didn't get to see the difference between the ad hoc committee's numbers and the MRI numbers. Is that going to be posted somewhere online?
Yes.
Where we can see the differences?
Yep.
Perfect. It was a long meeting, I'm sorry. Let's see. Back to something that we had talked about, Linda, 2 weeks ago, or last week, I don't even know where we are now, when we had the forum, was now that we're talking about just 41 trees, is there a way to put bans on those trees so the citizens can see which trees will be coming out?
I don't think that's up to us.
That's a maybe.
Yeah.
Tony Orlando, can you tie yellow ribbons around all the trees?
That's a state
Well, you have to
question,
tag
not
them.
for
Right?
us.
41, you said you were tagging them?
So they're already tagged.
Oh, okay.
It's taking the plans from my So we have to take the DOT plan, how it's overlaid over the trees now, match that up with the Bartlett plan to find out the tags. I can go out, we can verify the tags, and yes, I can mark them.
Because they may not be 41 anymore, correct?
Correct. Might not be
It might be
41.
35. Who knows?
I don't know. Yes. I will work on that.
Over the next period of time.
Yes. Well, tying it is the easy part. It's identifying them is what takes the time.
He needs yellow ribbons.
Yes, Brad, ranked choice voting on the warrant article if we can. If we can do ranked choice voting, that would be great for the intersections. Let's see. When Paul was just talking about the Libby, and first I just want to suggest that maybe before you guys come out of the Libby meeting, you should do public input for the Libby, because I don't know how this crosses over. But Paul was giving us a list of stuff, and earlier Jim gave us the amount $350,000 that was on your warrant, part of your warrant amounts. Are these the same discussion, or are we having two different discussions? That was confusing. I'm sorry.
It's probably going to be two different discussions based on the costs that we're going to run into with this project.
Okay, and then my other question, actually it's not a question, I just wanted to make a comment because a lot of people, you were talking about Maggie and that you were talking about the 7 to save, I'm assuming.
Maggie Steer was who I was referring
Yeah, that was, no, I know. Was that part of the 7 to save? Is that what you were discussing? Or how does the 7 to save fit in the Libby now?
The New Hampshire Preservation Alliance
yes,
has the Libby Museum as one of their 7 to save.
So does any funding come from that? Because I know we had Town Hall was one of our 7 to save.
Yeah,
Nothing.
but you don't get any money on it.
No funding,
No.
just...
But they may help us, the Preservation Alliance may help us fundraise for something or get a grant.
Okay.
It's a badge that says this is important.
Yeah. I know we did it with Town Hall, was that 2009? Back.
Somewhere's in there.
Okay, that's it. I'll stop bugging you. Thanks.
Okay. Any other public input? Hearing none, who wants to give me a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion to adjourn.
Now Dave Senecal.
Dave, and then Brian, because he made the let us know. Aye.
Aye.